Hey everybody, what's going on? Mark here. So before we get started with this week's episode, I just wanted to take some time to make an announcement. I'm sure as many of you have seen in the social medias, I recently launched a GoFundMe campaign for my little brother Dave, who unfortunately this year was diagnosed with leukemia. At the beginning of the diagnosis, it was thought that oral chemotherapy treatment would be the best course of action, but unfortunately throughout the year, it was discovered that he has a double genetic mutation, which is just not going to make the oral chemotherapy an option anymore. So thankfully, his doctors have fast-tracked him onto a bone marrow transplant, and I am a genetic match, so I can be his donor, and I am so very grateful that that happened to work out that way. And him and I are going to be leaving this Thursday, the 7th, to go to the Wilmot Cancer Center in Rochester, New York, to begin that process. So in the meantime, we have this GoFundMe set up. It is at cancertiger.com. That will redirect you to the GoFundMe. Within the first 48 hours of launching this, we received over $8,000 in donations. And I saw a lot of those donations came from our listeners. So I just wanted to take this time to say thank you so very much. It means a lot to me and my family to see that much support come in. And we just can't thank you all enough. And again, that is cancertiger.com. That link will be in the description of this podcast. So if you guys could do me a favor and just keep spreading the word, keep that link active, retweet it, share it, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you want to do it. If we could just keep that moving, that would be awesome. And it would mean the world to me. So moving on from cancer to creaky floorboards, in this episode, on occasion, it's going to sound like I'm recording from a haunted house. As mentioned, I've been quarantined for the last week and a half here with my wife and kids. As we're recording this, I'm in the basement. They've been upstairs, cooped inside. So, they're doing some TikTok dances or whatever the kids do nowadays, and they happen to find a creaky floorboard. So every so often, you're going to hear something in the background. Who knows? Maybe it's the Mothman in the background squeaking unhappily because we're talking about him. It is what it is. The board has been fixed. If this really throws you off that bad and you want to leave a shit 1-star review on iTunes, by all means, if that's the kind of person you are, if that's how you want to start your 2021, feel free. CancerTiger.com. Creaky floorboards are fixed. We're doing it. We're out here. Without further ado, Christopher Q. That creepy music. Welcome to the Kryptonaut Podcast. I am Mark Storrs, and with me as always is...
I'm Chris.
And...
Rob Morphy.
I just made the boys sit through my contact tracing phone calls and having them in the headphones listening to this poor girl explain COVID to me. Boy, what a treat that was.
Yeah, that was something else.
It's nice. I feel like it was great. Like a little Cyrano de Bergerac, like we're in your ear. You're talking to a lady who, by the way, purely professional and completely smitten with you. Like I've never heard a pro just gush and giggle and just Twitter about. So first off, you're a super stud. Congrats. Nicole really has a catch.
My wife will be pleased.
But that Chris and I got to be in your fucking ear where she couldn't hear us, and we harangued you nonstop during this process.
Chris called me fat. It was fine. Yeah, I told her, I was like, well, I'm chunky and I used to smoke and I have a weird blood clotting thing. But besides that, I'm good. So there it is. Yeah, so I am back in quarantine for COVID exposure. I had a test today. It was negative. So it is what it is. It's fine. Poor Bobby was shitting up the works earlier in the week and fucking Chris tore his microphone apart trying to fix it. So,
oh my God.
I mean, that's just apropos for the Mothman, I guess.
It is.
That's what it is.
When you're going this deep into this dark world, then that's just some shit that's going to happen. You know what's fucking funny? You guys, we're living in moth world, as we've said before. We've been doing this non-fucking stop. So I had a 12-hour fucking stretch of writing a couple of days ago. Started at 4 a.m., ended at about 4 p.m., knew I wanted to fucking finish a few things up because, you get obsessive. I got all my notes and stuff. and this is fucking both how fucking weird I am in my head and yet how cowardly I am. I walked in and I just said to myself, I fucking hate the Mothman. And then I sat down and then I got a little nervous. And then I swear to God, no one's here to hear it but me. It's not you. It's me.
Yeah, you took
I'm explaining to the Mothman, like, hey, I know I just said I hated you, Mothy. I know. But, I also understand you're a nebulous entity with extreme powers and a lot of vengeance. It's not you. It's me. I don't hate you.
No, that's hilarious.
I hate my relationship with you, which is on me.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
That's where I am. That's the red badge of courage that I'm fucking working with at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
There-
No, I get it. We all
just-
make caveats with gods we don't believe in.
Exactly.
I've
The
done it.
unknown deities you have to be cautious about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Roberts just so happens to be the Mothman. Before we get to appeasing the moth god, the god of all moths, patreon.com/Kryptonaut Podcast. $1 is a shout out. $5 is a shout out and some bonus audio. Robert, we got some shout outs to do. Good sir.
Yes, we do. I'm so pleased that we got more motherfuckers joining the club. You guys, thank you. And
Thank
to
you.
begin with, we're going to go with Jennifer Young Vest.
Hell yeah, Jenny.
Dope.
Thank you.
I like that name. Matt Baldwin.
Hell yeah, Matt.
Adam Masadi.
Thank you, Adam.
Alpha Cure Mom.
Okay, Alpha.
The
Respect.
first healing mother.
Yeah,
Alpha Cure Mom. I like
Sure.
I
that.
like it. I dig it.
Alan Edkins or Edkins.
yeah.
Let's go with Edkins.
Nice. Thank you, Alan.
Twilix.
Yeah, what up, Twilix?
Matt Hughes.
Hell yeah, Matt.
Michael Cortez or
Nice,
Cortez,
thank you.
maybe. Again,
Thank you.
you know the deal. Everyone knows the deal. If we fuck it up, you get an extra shout. It's the beauty of us.
There it is.
Heinrich.
Hell yeah, Heinrich. Hell yeah.
Nathan Cass.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Nathan.
Mike and Gesser.
Hell yeah, Mike. Thank you.
Ruin Truth. Come
Hell
on
yeah.
down.
That is definitely a 90s hardcore band.
Oh,
yeah,
so
Chris,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I
Yeah.
paid to see them at a 4-H club at some point.
Chris and I definitely played with them in a couple of basement
I'm
shows.
pretty
for
sure we did.
Jennifer Cruz.
Hell yeah, Jennifer.
Yep. X.
Back again. What up? Yep. Thank you.
This one's definitely going to be a challenge. I'm just going to go with it. Hebe Perry Belfridge. Could be Hebe. Could be Hebe. Could be no. It's not the extra B. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, you can't just add consonants.
I can go. I can do what I want, but I'm fucking up.
You can.
I want to say this beautiful name. So please make sure I said it right. And if I did not, and I am nearly 100% positive I didn't, let us know, and you will get the freebie, and we'll just get that shit correct. You deserve it. You paid for it. We're
Yeah,
gonna move
definitely.
on to Taylor High
Hell
and
yeah,
Ty Ormond.
Nice. Thank you so very
Perfect.
much, Ty. All right. Real quick, coming up here, we have a very special happy birthday, Robert. This is January 1st is the birthday, Robert. We're saying happy birthday to
Uzei and Charmaine. Happy motherfucking birthday.
Hell
What
yeah. Happy
lovely-
birthday.
Lovely names. Gorgeous names. Happy
Born on
birthday,
born
January
on
1st.
January. Yeah, January 1st
New Year's
twins.
babies.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I hope they're infants still. I hope they have no idea what I'm saying. You have lovely names.
Jeez.
Excellent. All right, before we get started, we got a correction here, Robert. The correction is...
you know what? I knew when I read it the first time that I had fucked it up. And what I had said the first time, I believe, is my read Randall. Clearly an abomination on the tongue. What I should have said was marade like parade Randall. So marade Randall. Thank you. Yes, I don't. Sometimes I break a word up in ways that the good Lord and the English language never intended, or whatever language it is. So thank you for giving us another shot. So Marade and all, thank you so much. As ever, we are wicked grateful.
Yes, thank you all so very much for your continued monthly contributions. We are on to the Mothman Chronicles Part 5, the fall.
Never-ending saga. Oh,
God, the fall.
it is the
Is
fall.
this where
This
Is
is
this
it.
like the Mothman goes emo? Like, is this what happens?
Well, what do
Like,
we
he
have?
gets,
We've had an invasion. We've had a
Yeah.
shattered window.
Yeah.
Are these all
Yep.
tracks on the fucking Ruined Truth album?
I mean, or this is the Mothman's emo phase where he's got like some like weird pants and he's just like not feeling himself.
Oh
but
yeah,
being
he's shopping at
himself.
Hot Topic. He's got the
Yeah.
deep
Right.
eyeliner. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the
All right.
the one album where he joined AFI.
Yes, this is.
They made
this
a
is the
record.
Yes, this is the Mothman's AFI fucking phase. Perfect. All right, let's get started with a hideous hierarchy of diabolical denizens had laid claim to the skies, streets, and homes of Point Pleasant, wreaking havoc on the collective psyche of the populace and instilling in it a profound and inexplicable sense of dread, the hopeless sensation that something was about to go terribly awry. They had no idea just how right they would be. Oh, the fall.
Wryness.
Awry. Things are not. I mean, spoiler alerts, we all know, but things don't work out
Yeah.
for anybody. So,
Yeah. Things are about to get ham on awry. Yeah, that's
Awesome.
right. I just did
Nice.
that. No, things
That
are
was
going to go
terrible.
fucking south. I know. I shouldn't be.
that was-
I can't make fun. This is actually really sad.
yeah, and your food, your food thing is there was god awful.
I don't
but
even know
by
why
all
I said,
means.
oh, it's the word. It's beyond a dad joke. It's not even a stepdad joke. It's an abusive stepdad joke from
is.
behind
It
prison,
is.
and your mom made you visit him and you didn't want to. That's how bad that fucking joke was.
Oh,
Fucking
jeez.
I
Terry.
hate that joke. I hate me for doing that.
You should fucking
Wow.
all right. It's
All
always
right, so I'm
Terry's
gonna-
fault.
I'm going
Fuck
to work
Terry.
through this. Blame the moth. It's not
There
me.
it is. Blame
Oh,
them
fucking
all.
Tad.
Fucking
Oh,
Tad, he's back.
Tad
Son of a
Jones
bitch.
or Johansson. What was? I don't even remember. I just know Tad was awesome.
Nobody does. It was 46 episodes ago.
Oh God,
Well fucked
no.
up.
Oh,
No one knows what's going
we're
on.
going to do literally 700 listener stories in a row. I don't think I'm going to write again until 2022.
I don't blame you.
Nice.
There.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. All right, Bobby, bring it to us. The Mothman Chronicles Part 5, The Fall. Let's do it.
Living under the omnipresent shadow of the Mothman and all of the other entities that rushed in with it had taken an undeniable toll on the inhabitants of Mason County. Even the curious kids who once thrilled to the latest tales of shrieking red-eyed birdmen, headless horrors, and technicolor UFOs had begun to feel a suffocating shroud of anxiety descend upon them. This was only enhanced by the scores of strangers, both unintentionally annoying and actively insidious, who had descended on the communities, as well as the reinvigorated flying saucer invasion that had flung the gates to the TNT area back open to crowds of onlookers who'd overflowed from Camp Conley Road to watch the now nightly displays. It is a nonstop UFO extravaganza, guys.
It's a party.
Other phenomenon that had once been reserved only for those who had seen the big bird or a UFO began to spread as residents throughout this particular stretch of the Ohio River Valley began to notice their television signals fluttering in and out, especially in the evening, and stranger still, their telephones had begun ringing off the hook at all hours, and once answered, all these citizens were greeted with were sinisterly synthesized voices and an even stranger series of signals.
So
it's
the worst.
It's
call ever.
just Ma Bell's fucking up here. Let's be honest. Even John Keel became overwhelmed when nearly all of his phone calls, whether they were placed in Point Pleasant or New York City, were interrupted by shrill whistles, odd strums, and bizarre voices. And worse yet, his phone bills had inexplicably become astronomical. He took this issue up with the phone company, but no solution was found. Someone or something had managed to hack into his lines. This problem would not be limited to him. In late March, Mary Heyer complained that her phones had, quote, gone crazy, telling John that all of her phones, including the ones with unlisted numbers, rang day and night with strangers telling her where to look for UFOs, followed by the ubiquitous buzzing and funny beeping sounds. One young woman complained to John that, much like Doris Lilly, you might remember her, she's the daughter-in-law of James and Jackie Lilly, who was, getting calls in the one, I don't even remember which story. She began, this unidentified woman, she began receiving odd calls every evening at exactly 5 p.m. She insisted that the modulated voice on the other end of the line spoke in a language that, quote, sounded something like Spanish, yet I don't think it was Spanish. So,
Okay.
there's that.
I mean, all right.
Doris Lily. Caliente.
Caliente.
I mean, I think you would. Well, maybe she wouldn't
Muy
know that it
bueno.
was Spanish. I mean, I'm not a versatile linguist, but I can hear someone speak and say, that is Spanish, or that is Portuguese. I actually can differentiate between the two. So there you go.
Well, we have Brazilian buddies, so it helps
That's
us.
why I can tell.
But that having been said, we have the 21st century advantage of 5,000 channels, the internet, and international friendships. Maybe something not so prevalent in the mid 60s in the American South, or anywhere in America for that matter. So you hear something. I mean, unless it sounded vaguely like Ricardo Montalban, I don't know if you know.
Jesus.
I'm trying to think of who was on TV. I mean, he was Khan, but I'm not sure what year that was.
Yeah.
And God bless him. Come on, Mr. Rourke, champ.
No, Mr. Rourke's the dope shit. He made fantasies happen, except it was a twist.
Always a dark twist.
Always.
But look, really, how would you know if something was Spanish, but you don't think it was?
Exactly.
Representatives of the Southern Bell Telephone and Telegraph Company came and inspected her equipment, but they could find nothing wrong. John took it upon himself to screw open the receiving end of her handset and discovered a small sliver of wood sharpened to a point at one end and covered with what resembled a thin layer of graphite.
Oh, okay.
The purpose of the odd object and the identity of who had installed it into the phone remained a mystery. But once removed, the woman's strange calls ceased immediately. But for most of the community, the high strangeness was just ramping up.
So maybe she had like a bug. Someone put a bug in her phone, like an
but
old school
made
like
of wood
CIA
and graphite.
bug.
I mean,
That sounds like a pencil.
Yeah, yes.
All right,
It's a number 2 CIA bug.
Guys,
Fill it
I found
out.
a pencil. I'm being hacked. I got a pencil.
And just saying, it could have been some weird, plant or something put in her phone.
A plant. A plant. Okay.
No, you literally took it as like a vegetable, didn't you? For a second
No,
there?
it's not
What
fucking
the hell?
It's not asparagus in the fucking
Put
ringer.
daffodils
It's
on my
just
fucking phone.
Jesus. All right. Anyway, it could be the CIA fucking with people because it's what they do. They're disinformation agents, the FBI and the DEA. Yeah.
Well, just keep it going. Listen, give me some more acronyms, buddy. I'm with KGB.
Yeah, keep going.
FSB.
Yeah.
The CDC, the CSEA, the
MK Ultra.
MPAA,
MK Ultra, the
PMRC. Fuck
the
those
CDC.
guys.
Yeah.
Blackie
Anyway.
Lawless for life.
NRM.
Oh, National Record Mart. Fuck. All right. Now you're just making me sad.
Yeah, I know.
All right,
Dozens, my friends,
Dozens.
dozens of people in downtown Point Pleasant were reporting low-flying, unidentifiable objects, which were spreading ripples of panic throughout the community, convincing many that a full-scale alien invasion was, quite literally, in the stars. So prolific had the UFO sightings become that John Keel took it upon himself to phone the Air Force Base at Lockbourne, Ohio, just under 100 miles northwest of Point Pleasant, to inform them of this mass infringement on American airspace. The officer he spoke to, one Lieutenant Hoffman, was polite, but made it clear that the U.S. Air Force was interested in neither the machines nor the mythical beings soaring above Mason County.
Oh, just dismissed. Wow.
Fucking Lieutenant Hoffman doesn't have time for that bullshit.
No,
Yeah,
man.
he's like, go fuck a Bob. We got bigger fish to fry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Ah, yes. Spokesman for the Air Force, Chris Carnicelli. That having been said, in early April of 1967, both John and Mary Heyer noticed a sudden influx of individuals who John depicted as having the, quote, indelible look of federal officers, conservative ties, square clothes, recent haircuts, unquote. That's a harsh indictment.
I mean, he's not wrong, because when you do see federal agents, that's exactly what they look like.
Yeah, they look like fucking Minecraft people.
Yeah, like you can pick them out. You can pick them out in a crowd where you're like, you're definitely not a normal
100%.
dude. Yeah, totally.
There seemed to be 15 to 20 of them meandering around the small downtown area, but they bugged out before John could spring his plan to trap one in a conversation. One of the more alarming accounts of a military presence in the region came from Faye DeWitt, who, along with her brother Carlisle and their younger siblings Betty, Ray, and Jack, had a terrifying run-in with the Mothman back in November of 1966. You guys remember that? Where it was running alongside the window and fucking Big Bro starts hucking rocks at it until it hisses and fucking takes off. But before that, it jumps on the hood of their car and is like eyeballing them through the windshield. It's one of the classic cases. So anyway, these two, according to Faye, she and Carlisle had returned to the scene of their encounter within the TNT area, where they were shocked to discover a large delegation of armed forces. Before they even got close to the plant, one of the soldiers flagged the siblings down and, in no uncertain terms, demanded that they leave the area immediately or have their truck impounded and face the penalty of arrest. Better judgment prevailed, and the frightened teenagers left post haste. So that's another example of, you hear about a military presence. We discussed briefly how the National Guard was sent in to, help shut down the TNT area when the hubbub was getting too much, under the auspices of not having people getting their fucking faces shot off, which seems reasonable. But to have a larger military presence there. Now, there was the armory, the National Guard armory, not far away, and maybe they were just running maneuvers. I mean, there's no reason to blow this out of proportion. But then there's also the chance that they were put there by one of these intelligence agencies like the CIA or whatever you're talking about, because some weird shit was going on and they were, basically ordered to shut the place down. So I can run the gamut from the slightly paranoid to the absolutely prosaic. But the fact that it happened is interesting in and of itself.
I mean, I want to believe it's like some like crack team of anti-Mothman mercenaries, kind of like Predator.
Yeah, totally. I knew that was instantly where you were going. Yeah, there's the Jesse the Body and Shane Black.
Carl Weathers is there. Fucking Billy's there cutting himself. The chest, the knife, and the ridge. Fucking go. Yeah, dude. Fuck going down.
Go. Jesus Christ.
I wasn't going to jump on and get to the chopper because it's so fucking cliche, but whatever.
For Chris and I, it is just a movie. It's a good movie. For you, it's a goddamn religious experience.
It's a lifestyle choice.
It is a lifestyle choice.
Oh my God. Is it really?
Yeah, all the Predator movies are. Fuck, you kidding?
How do you live in your daily life that is following Predator's way that tells you how to live?
I
almost spit the Predator way. Jesus Christ, dude.
I just live by the hunter's code. I make weird click clack noises at my kids.
Do you carry miniguns? And you're like, I don't have time to bleed to your fucking kids, and you shoot them with Nerf miniguns.
That's exactly what I do. Yes, I tell my wife I'm a sexual Tyrannosaurus Rex, and she's just like, "No, you're not. You're chunky. Stop." And then there you go.
Oh my God, stop it! You are flawless. You are a beautiful man. You're my Apollo.
Oh, thank you. But anyway,
wow.
Back in town.
Back in town.
We're going back. We're going to leave Predator. We're going to go back to Mothville.
All right.
Back in town, one of the oddballs who'd infiltrated the area suddenly reappeared when Mary saw the same petite, bespectacled man who giddily made off with her pen just weeks before.
Son of a bitch.
Only this time he was clad in a khaki uniform.
Motherfucker.
The wee fellow seemed startled when Mary recognized him, and as she approached, he broke out into a dead run.
Come on, he's like 4'2".
Yeah.
Chase him down.
I mean,
fuck him.
Even Mary should be able to catch this dude pretty quickly.
Just trip his ass. He can't see. He's got fucked up shoes, man.
He's got the big rubber shoes.
You have to catch up to him to trip him. Come on, Dad.
He can't be that hard to catch.
How do you know? What is he? What is he?
He was like 4'4" with a sweet bowl cut.
Yeah. What is
it doesn't matter because this is what happens next. Suddenly, a large black car, driven by a massive man, shot around the corner and screeched to a halt in front of the pint-sized pen lover. As if expecting... Yeah, thank you. Bask in that one. As if expecting its arrival, the little fellow leapt into the passenger seat, and Mary could only stare in bewilderment as the odd couple drove off over the silver bridge, never to be seen again.
This pen-stealing son of a bitch. All right. Well, he's obviously up to something, and he's clearly not something good.
Oh, no. Come on.
Not at all.
She could not read the number, Mary could make out that the predominant color of the license plate was orange, which in 1967 offered a pretty narrow field of options, including New Mexico, which, while tenuous as fuck, immediately invokes thoughts of White Sands and the Roswell Army Airfield, which, incidentally, shut its doors in 1967.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
Area 51, dude.
Yes.
Area 51.
100%. Nevertheless, it was cool to bring up.
It's all coming together.
And yeah, I spent like 20 minutes looking at different colored license plates from the
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
60s because that's what I do. That's how much I love this goddamn pod.
Yeah, better man than I.
Can't find a better man.
You did it, Rob. There
Weirder still were reports of nocturnal raids on private property by large caravans of unidentified individuals seen tromping over rustic farmland outside of Point Pleasant. One witness referred to the trespassers as, quote, gypsies, and various others described the odd processions to John Keel, stating that they consisted of, quote, men in bright reflective clothing and women in ankle-length dresses, end quote. All of these nighttime wanderers were described as having long hair, dark skin, and Asiatic facial features. John Keel made it a point to add that these reports came before the quote-unquote hippie explosion of the late 1960s, though one has to wonder how prevalent that social movement was ever in rural West Virginia. But that having been said, that's some fucked up shit. All right. Were these eccentric entities, like the wee folk of yore, slipping through the diaphanous veil that separates the etheric realm from our own? If so, then why? So this is one of those little things. I won't digress on it too long, but multiple people are seeing caravans of Asian people that are just essentially like, I don't know, a combination of what would be the hippie look, according to John Keel, and the classic, Middle Europe Romanian posse that's just wandering through doing their shit.
Sure.
And that is fucking weird because you need a place to be and a place to go to actually have a need to cross through.
Right.
And we're going to in the next episode, we're going to break down all sorts of theories and we're going to deal with this too a little bit. But I just find that to be, even though it's one of the most pedestrian, really, it's just a group of people walking through. I don't even know exactly how large. Is it like 200? Is it 25? We don't know.
Caravan. What's a caravan?
Yeah,
exactly. So it implies large in my mind, but I can't help but see the dusky, valley and this group of people just tromping over a hill and moving and, lugging their hobo bindles and their fucking tents. And that's just like, what the fuck are you? Who are you? And what are you doing here? Are you the fairy invasion? What is going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I picture like a traveling circus thing. You know what I mean? With your
Me too. Like something wicked this way comes, except on foot.
Yeah, right. Your wheeled caravans and just like
yes.
So it's like, are you a traveling circus from? Mongolia?
They sound like jazz cats. Like there's a bunch of jazz dudes. Like, yeah, what's going on? They're cool cat, and they're fucking coming through.
It would really work with the time. Jazz musicians as jazz cats.
Yeah, fucking
wandering
super cool
jazz cats,
jazz dudes. Yeah,
67
man,
West Virginia wandering. All right, yeah, you nailed
like
it.
just jamming to fucking Thelonious Monk if he was around back then.
Did you
Which
say
I think he was.
Thelonious Monk as if he was a felon, or did you say Thelonious
no, I said
Monk?
Thelonious.
Okay,
I thought you said Thelonious too.
Me too.
No, Thelonious Monk. Just jamming out to fucking all kinds of cool fucking jazz music.
Meanwhile,
they could have been really proto hippies.
They easily could have been. I don't know what they'd be. Listen, I know hippies were everywhere. It was nearly ubiquitous phenomenon in the United States, and this is already 1967, so it's not like the groundswell hadn't begun. It hadn't peaked yet like it would in 69, but it was
That's what
still
I mean.
there.
Who knows? Right.
And maybe it was 7 guys in a field trying to build a bonfire, and it got blown out of proportion to like an epic caravan seen by multiple people. I don't know. This is one of those ones where you just wish, like, did you get close enough to see what their ethnicity was? If so, because you apparently thought you did you interact with them? Were you scared? Did you figure it out? Was it a couple hundred people? Did you call the police? What the fuck is going on, Mr. Farmer Man? Because I don't. But what I'm left with is just a very intriguing thing that I can build all sorts of mythology around, but I'd really rather just fucking know. But that having been said,
that's true. I mean, what is a Stray Cat Rock?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, fucking Brian Setzer's there.
I say again. Meanwhile, Mabel McDaniel, the mother of the supernaturally scourged Linda Scarberry, who'd had several strange experiences in her home and had actually seen the Mothman itself on January 11th, 1967, was working in the Point Pleasant unemployment office on Main Street, of course, Main Street, when she had a run-in with one of these slightly askew, swarthy-skinned semi-humans. In the Mothman prophecies, John Keel wrote that, quote, during the second week in March 1967, a strange man blundered into her office. I love that, blundered in. That's like a fucking Three Stooges move. He wore a black coat and a black cap and behaved in a most peculiar manner, end quote. Mabel described her odd visitor's movements as being, quote, unsteady, almost drunken, end quote, as if he were inexperienced with the kind of environment or perhaps even gravity he was currently moving in. She also noticed that his eyes were funny looking, kind of starey and glassy. But the thing that struck her as even more bizarre was the, quote, garbled sing-song manner in which he spoke. Mabel claimed that on top of the strange speech patterns, the awkward individual's English was so poor she couldn't really figure out what he wanted, save for the fact that he kept mentioning that he required, quote, trip insurance. He also claimed to have visited Mary Hire, who later denied that any such meeting had occurred. So it's, again, just one of those weird things that makes no sense. Kind of like the pen thief, just this awkward, weird, and we're going to see this again and again. People that are moving strange, are they drunk? Do they have a handicap? Or is it, are they just not jibing with our world? I just find it really fucking interesting.
Dude, he asked for trip insurance. He's all glassy-eyed and starry and moving all fucked up. Could be tripping balls.
He could be tripping balls.
Right. But if he name-dropped Mary Hire and he, like, how did he know who she was? If she denies it and it's true that she never met him, then how would she know that name?
That's that really crazy interconnectivity that seems to be happening.
Right.
I don't say synchronicity because even though maybe that does apply to some things, that's not about that. It is about them almost like subtly and weirdly, like, I can't efficiently communicate with you, or I choose not to, maybe is more the case. Right. But I will let you know that I'm aware of key players in this. And I know you know them, and I know you've both had experiences, and yet what I'm going to talk about has nothing to do with it. And I'm not quite fitting in. So am I awkward because I'm fucking really not a part of this and I don't get it? Or am I intentionally awkward just to fuck with you, which is, of course, the ultra-terrestrial protocol, as we all know.
The old sing-song manner of speech, also known, the ultra-terrestrials employ that as well, Robert.
We're about to break this down. In his writings, John endeavored to explain the strange speech patterns so often manifested by humanoids like the ones that Mary Hire and Mabel McDaniel encountered, claiming, quote, their behavior as described by various eyewitnesses further suggests their problem in adjusting to our time frame. For example, their rapid-fire, unintelligible language, noted by witnesses all over the world as sounding like a speeded-up phonograph record, could be caused by their failure to adjust to our time cycle when they enter our space-time continuum. Fuck? They are talking, he goes on to say, at a faster rate because their time is different from ours. When they manage to adjust, they have to forcibly slow themselves down, articulating their words slowly in a sing-song manner. End quote.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
He's got it. JK,
I mean, I love it.
He can always just wrap it up with a fucking bow. Say Merry Christmas. You're like, it's Tuesday. It's May. Merry Christmas. Thank you, John. That's what happens.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah,
I know.
I love it.
I'm with Mark in that I love it, and I'm absolutely with you, Chris, in that the fuck. I mean, it's a great idea. It's a great. It's something I would do. I'll be honest. It's the kind of fucking theory I would yank directly from my sphincter and present for all the world to see. But I'm doing it half tongue in cheek. This motherfucker's just delivering it like it's a fact.
No, I know, and it's not necessarily I have a problem with space time. I just think what I feel like if you whatever space time you were in, that's the time you were in. And your bodies
would automatically reset to whatever physical
right.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about it that deeply.
Well, I mean, generally, if you're traveling at the speed of light and you're not talking weirdly, but time is moving differently for you.
So you're saying like astronauts on a ship going the speed of light? Well, we're assuming, obviously none of us know. The two astronauts talking to each other in said ship probably would not be fucked up because they're together.
We do talk to astronauts in orbit, and they are traveling extremely fast to stay in orbit. They are not talking in any quicker.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what caliber of science this theory is based on, but part of me, like Mark said, fucking loves it, and part of me is like, boy, John. You did it again, mister. Thank you.
Nice.
Christmas in July.
I feel the same way. I'm not mad at it. I'm just like,
oh no,
it's all like intriguing, but I'm just like, but I'm like, ooh, but I'm like, at the same time.
And that's the Mothman in a fucking nutshell.
There you go. And I'm in love with it. So there it is.
Not
okay.
long.
Won't you marry it?
Oh, there it had to happen. Had to happen.
Wow.
Honestly, Mark, bigamy is okay when it's a Mothman and your wife. Anything else, it's wrong. But you can marry it.
Nicole will understand.
Yeah, it's the Mothman.
Oh, man. All right.
Not long afterward, both Linda Scarberry and Mary Millette, you remember them for like the November, I think, 15th, 66 sighting, the first one that made the papers with the Mothman, separately answered their doors only to be confronted by a very unusual pair consisting of a large and odd-looking man and a red-haired woman who avoided eye contact and did her best to keep her face concealed. They claimed to be representatives of a, quote, firm that would take free annual photographs of their families, no strings attached, end quote.
Suspect.
No, you think? You fucking think? Both Linda and Mary later confirmed that they felt uneasy in the company of the curious couple. And they both refused the odd offer, which, perplexingly, was presented to no one else in Point Pleasant. Mary even had the presence of mind to jot down the license plate of the Volkswagen driven by the duo, but when the police checked it out, it proved to be non-existent. This vexed John, as time and time again, routine police checks of license plate numbers associated with these odd entities turned out to not have been issued to anyone. He noted that the odds that the authorities would not be able to match so much as a single plate to the millions that were issued were almost beyond calculation. So it's not just that, it's a stolen car or it's government plates. It's that this number, even though it's a state or whatever it's from, New Mexico, say whatever,
doesn't show up.
It doesn't show up. It's not. It's not one that's been printed, and that is just unfathomable, really. Unless, if you are working for a clandestine government group, then maybe you could figure out a way to do it. But if you're working independently doing some weird shit, unless you're fucking magical fairy folk or insidious ETs that just can do whatever and scan computers that don't exist, I don't fucking know. Again, it's one of those things that's not all that important, but it strikes me as what the fuck.
Yeah, it's weird.
If you're some weird, super creepy fucking indie photographer couple just out there hitting the streets trying to fucking drum up business by taking family photos, you just, somehow you have access to fucking plates that don't exist. I mean, And
the big goofy looking guy, I'm thinking like fucking, like fucking George the Animal Steel or something, monosyllabic.
Jesus, yeah.
Green tongue,
George.
Harry, no shirt.
Fucking, David Lynch redhead in the background, like not showing her face and not speak. It's just so fucking weird. I love
They're
it.
just having a hard time getting their photo business off the ground. Okay, they're just entrepreneurs and artists out there trying to do it, doing a terrible job at it.
You might be right, but while nomadic fairy folk wandered the hills outside of town and visited the offices of local professionals, and the obviously covert wink agents of the U.S. government occupied the streets of Point Pleasant, the increasingly mendacious men in black were once again insinuating themselves into the scene. The spring of 1967 heralded the arrival of a towering trio of good-looking, extremely bronzed, black-clad men who would rudely pound on doors late at night. When the agitated homeowners answered the knocks, the men, who would arbitrarily claim to be either Mormon missionaries or salesmen, midnight salesman, midnight missionary,
There you go.
proceeded to use this opportunity to ask a series of odd and intrusive questions. Although the threesome were always seen on foot and never got into a car, when the police were called on the sleep-stealing triad, the officers who rocketed to the scene could never find so much as a trace of the nocturnal disruptors. So just there, cops show up, they're fucking gone. They're knocking on a door. They're not really talking about the Lord or fucking magazines are trying to sell or whatever. They're just asking about your kids and creepy shit like we talked about before.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Not long after, while cruising through the TNT with two of the principal Mothman eyewitnesses, Steve Millett and Roger Scarberry, John stumbled across a large black Cadillac parked in the shadows near one of the igloos. It was an opportunity not to be missed. Without hesitation, John slammed on the brakes, leapt out of the vehicle, and made a beeline for the caddy. The man inside was holding a microphone with some kind of recording device attached. John did his best to engage him in conversation, but he would only grunt in response to his queries. After a few more fruitless questions, John retreated from the mysterious microphone man, none the wiser despite his spontaneous interrogative techniques. He would never be quite sure if the man was a member of that dark, nebulous contingent known as the Men in Black, or just another one of the seemingly scores of clandestine government agents who'd been drawn into this voracious paranormal vortex. Either way, he never saw the man again.
Just early podcasters, really. Just some dude sitting in his car recording his voice. I'm like, here at the TNT. Maybe he's fucking there documenting all the shit.
No,
man.
literally, he could have been a UFO investigator. You're right about that. That occurred to me. It's
totally.
like somebody that is just hot on the scene. Maybe so they got a sweet car and it happens to be black. And maybe he doesn't know this fucking dude, but he knows that there's weird fuckers around. So when goateed John Keel comes running over like he owns the fucking joint with two young punks sitting in the car, for all we know, this ufologist could have recorded like a man in black. I don't even know the proper pluralism or whatever. Came over and he had muscle sitting back in the car and he was trying to interrogate me and I was not giving up any answers. But as soon as he was gone, I left and I cried and I went home to Mabel and I'm like, God damn it, Mabel, I'm never doing this again. And that's what happened.
I got too close to the goddamn truth, Mabel. Goddamn,
the episode's
gonna be awesome
now, and that's why we don't know about it. So John Keel might have just scared the fuck out of this dude, or not. I mean, I don't know.
There's
other options.
You would have to think there'd be a lot of, personal secret people that were interested in doing their own, whether they were legit journalists or just people of their own volition, just wanting to know what was going on, but not be upfront.
Oh, you're 100% right. Because as we
this
talked
seems
about,
like one of those cases.
I think maybe in the last installment or maybe the one before, there was not only a flood of like the government agents and the weird shit, but college kids, self-styled ufologists, some, more legit like Keel and semi-legit like Gray Barker, and others that who the fuck knows, maybe they, like you just say, they're just interested in the phenomenon. And others that were maybe just there for a fucking good time just to see the craziness. So you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, it is an influx of a lot of probably very, well, maybe not normal people, but just nothing significantly paranormal about them. But when you're interpreting it with a heightened sense of urgency and anxiety because of everything else that's going on and all the rumors that are spreading, you can easily read into it that they are the enemy when they're no more or less human than you are and just doing whatever they're doing to fulfill their own curiosity.
Yeah.
And you gotta wonder how often that was a real factor. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, there's just UFO nerds everywhere. People checking it out. Other journalists. Yeah, totally. Just people on the ground trying to find shit out. So,
but I mean, just objectively, like if I was Keel, I just would have been like, dude, are you just here to find out what's going on?
Right.
You know what I mean? Just give me the truth. Like
that's the beauty and problem with Keel. And again, we're going to also discuss this in our final installment next time, but he is a myth maker. I mean, yeah, he's a legitimate journalist and he started out as such, but he also knows that part of what he's doing is, he's laying the groundwork for the legends of tomorrow, and that's part of that kind of journalism. It is not solely objective fucking civics meeting journalism. It is batshit crazy, try to find the most sincere people you can and do your best with it, which is something we know well because shit with, American Monsters of Cryptopia and on, it's something we've been involved with, all of us to one degree or another for fucking decades. So I get it. It's not always easy to be straight up, but I think he had a tendency, maybe not as much as Gray Barker and some others, but to let the story be and not worry so much about whether or not it is authentically representing the facts, if it's capturing the Zeitgeist, the gestalt, if you will, of whatever weird shit happens to be happening at that moment.
Totally.
Sure. It's seemingly he's picking and choosing when to really dig and when to not really dig.
Absolutely. And what
depending on the situation.
To hype up and what to downplay.
Yeah, sure.
At the same time, as various humanoids were dominating the scene, the UFOs began ramping up for yet another assault on the skies of Mason County. One of the strangest sightings occurred when John and Mary Heyer spied a weird light careening above a clear sky heading toward a solitary puff of cloud that hovered above. The pair watched in anticipation as the silent, self-illumined object was obscured by the single swirling mass of ice crystals and water vapor. But the UFO had seemingly stopped behind the cloud. After a few minutes, the observers were greeted by the familiar drone of an aircraft. Suddenly, an object emerged from the opposite side of the cloud, but it was no longer the shiny UFO that went in. It was now identical to a small airplane, complete with flashing wing and tail lights. At first, the pair laughed at their mistake, but John was perplexed. He knew that what had entered the cloud was not a traditional aircraft. He also knew that a plane could never have hovered within the tiny cloud for as long as it had before appearing on the other side. This led him to conclude that this must be some form of incredibly advanced camouflage used by UFOs to blend in with traditional Earth-based aircraft. It's an interesting moment in that one cloud,
weird,
glowing UFO. Now I get it. I know I get your Chris. I get it because you want to think that, but planes can't just fucking stop.
Right.
That's the one thing that makes me go, well, there might be something weird going on here.
No, I get it, but he said first. It says seemingly stopped.
Well,
seemingly.
You're right. You're right. But I mean, so what it could have done. All right. So it's a traditional airplane that looks shiny at first. It gets to the cloud, hangs a fucking left, goes straight out for a little while, U-turns back, then goes fucking left again and comes out. So it looked like it was just hovering behind the cloud. And now in better lighting on the other side of the cloud, it's, the Cessna.
So, yeah, well, the thing about clouds is they're deceptively, you don't really get an idea of depth in a cloud.
Yeah.
You just don't. You can look at it and really, when you see clouds in the distance, it looks like a fucking painting. right?
Oh, I agree. It's always two-dimensional, basically. Yes.
And they could be fucking quarter mile, and you just don't know. And that's all I'm saying is like, you don't really have the dimensions. I don't know if you can say from your perspective this is what it looks like, but you can't say. I can't think that he would say he knew this was this and he knew. You don't really. You don't know. You think this is what you see.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it could be misidentification, could be active camo. I mean, at this point,
It's
Mothman.
a fucking predator.
Anything, yeah, exactly. Anything's fucking possible.
Flying predators.
Yeah, sweet flying predator. There you go.
So the weirdness continues. On March 5th, Alice Bradshaw saw a vintage silver flying saucer akin to the one that Mrs. Kelly saw above her kid's school almost exactly a year earlier. Excuse me. You'll remember that with the fucking hovering Fabio.
Yeah, sure.
Mom.
Hot mom, yes. That same night, on the other side of Point Pleasant, a woman named Dolly Grady saw an identical saucer. So Alice and Dolly saw the same silver saucer right out of fucking Harryhausen's Earth Versus, and so there it is. Just reported and left, because that's what's happening now. We're going to go rapid fire. Then, on March 20th, witnesses reported seeing a group of saucers hovering ominously over both the Silver Bridge and the Marietta Manufacturing Company in Point Pleasant. Meanwhile, Park and Mabel McDaniel had a 45-minute UFO sighting, while other observers reported to Mary Hyre that they were seeing military planes chasing spaceships above their homes.
Oh, shit.
It's a crazy spring. Interesting, though, all of that it would be on March 31st, 1967 that, quote, all hell began to break loose, end quote. On the afternoon in question, workers at a Point Pleasant lumber yard, that's how I speak now. That's what happened. Lumber yard reportedly saw a radiant object hovering over the home of Doris DeWeese. Moments later, Doris spied an incredibly luminous object streak across the sky before crashing into a small shack on a nearby snow-covered hill, catching the structure on fire.
Oh, no.
I know. It's unclear what hurtled into the hut.
Well,
what? I'm sorry. Okay, I'll talk time.
It's on fire. It crashed. There you go.
Was it the same luminous object that was seen hovering over Doris's house, or perhaps a beam or projectile weapon fired from the UFO in order to take the shed out? Maybe. I'm just saying.
How many sides do you have? 3. Fuck you.
Rapid fire minigun.
2 sides per house. We told you. I don't know what size.
Man, that UFO hated that hut.
Everyone hates a hut. That ratty ass hut.
All right,
so let me be pragmatic here.
All right.
Maybe it was just a random meteor strike that had nothing to do with the object.
I mean,
science.
Yeah,
I can bring the science.
Yeah, it just so
well
happened.
Done.
Thank you.
During all this weird shit, a random meteor happens to hit a fucking hut.
I'm not counting it out.
Yeah,
it probably wasn't a meteor, but I don't know, because did the fucking lumberyard workers have the decency to say it hovered over Doris DeWeese's house and then bam, crashed into the fucking shack on the hill? No.
Yeah.
So I don't know if a big old UFO fucking crashed into the shack, if a little tiny projectile did, or if a random fucking heavenly object. I'm just doing my best to report this shit because it's crazy. Regardless of its origin, the burning shack just happened to house the transmitter used by Sheriff Johnson and his deputies.
Oh, they took it out.
They took out the fucking trans.
It's a standard fucking black op maneuver, dude. Take out the fucking communication equipment.
Exactly what you do.
Cut the line to the house. Fuck.
Firefighters struggled to get their vehicles up the mud-slick, ice-smothered gradient, but finally managed to extinguish the blaze.
Oh, man.
Surprisingly, the flames had not touched the transmitter. Nevertheless, its internal systems were fried by what experts claimed must have been a lightning strike, despite the fact that there had been no storm clouds in the area. This resulted in the crippling of communications throughout the region, leaving authorities in a state of incommunicado for what would be days of unfettered metaphysical mayhem.
Dude, they came in, they took out the fucking tech, dude. They're like, this is how these fucking earthlings are communicating. Real quick, zap it or crash into it, kamikaze, whatever you got to fucking do. And yeah, there you go, man.
There it
is. Here's a fireball, but that's not what's going to destroy it. It's going to act as like a
it's like a
EMP
little, like,
or something.
It's like a little bomb,
but not
not
the explosion.
Bomb.
Something else that just seems weird to me.
It's like a reverse thermal detonator. Is that a thing? It is now.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
It has to explode, but the explosion is not what's going to damage it.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a electromagnetic pulse that's going to really damage it, but it needs to be an explosion.
Dude, it's fucking alien tech, dude.
It sounds like a Ryan Johnson movie.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't make sense. It's fucked up, and I hate it.
Oh,
it's super interesting though.
It is cool, but movie criticism aside, Robert, continue.
So I totally agree with both of you. Like Chris said, it's fascinating. Like Mark said, this seems like exactly what an infiltrating force would do. So I'll just read what I wrote. This would be exactly the kind of massive telecommunications interference that any conquering force would endeavor to create on the eve of an invasion. Consider this. What if all of the outlandish objects, both organic and inorganic, that were flying above the region were the vanguard of an extraterrestrial invasion consisting of manifold UFOs, an array of occasionally headless, hair-smothered horrors, black-clad agents of deceit that were continually intimidating eyewitnesses, and at least one, or maybe even an entire squadron of anxiety-inducing, red-eyed sky soldiers designed to shake up the local populace, rendering them unable to defend themselves. If this were the case, and I'll be the first to admit that it is one hellaciously big if, then wouldn't it be incumbent upon Earth's other intelligent and hitherto unrecognized occupants to also assess the situation and, if needs be, join the fray in defense of our shared homeworld? Perhaps the traveling band of nocturnal interlopers seen in Mason County, the gypsies that we talked about before, were neither curiosity seekers nor refugees, but an advanced guard of scouts, spies, soldiers, and sorcerers sent to make camp and ensure the safety of all of the Earth, including alternate dimensions and etheric realms.
Oh, man. So it's the fucking Fae versus the aliens?
That's kind of what I went with.
All right.
And yes,
okay.
I pulled a full keel there. I understand
You
I did that.
Yeah.
You did.
I pulled
100%.
a full evidence-free keel. Because either this happened or it didn't. But tell me you guys don't delight in the idea that the Fae, living in the alternate side of the Earth we all share, sometimes stealing our babies, sometimes making sweet love to us in Iceland, doing the things they do. But when the aliens come with their Mothmens and their Men in Blacks and their whatnots, then goddamn it, the enemy of my enemy is my bestest buddy in the whole wide world.
Yeah, no, there's an invading force. The Fae are there to fucking protect us, and fucking there it is.
I mean,
Mothman,
you got to at least entertain the possibility.
I love it. I want you to write the script. Like, I want to develop the website and all the art for this. So let's do it.
It would actually be a pretty good movie if you think about it.
Oh God,
totally. It'd be fucking super dope. But yeah, I mean, I'm on board. You've got me.
Thank you.
You go.
Thank you so much.
I'm with you. Like Robert Keel, you've sold me. So
Robert fucking Keel.
Robert Keel.
All right.
So let's get back. Leaving theory behind. Let's get back to what we can loosely call facts. In Gallipolis Ferry, located less than 7 miles south of Point Pleasant, John noted a distinct upswing of paranormal activity in the days following the apparent attack on the transmitter. So a direct correlation. Regardless of the potential fictions and the good stories that could be there, there's definitely a tie-in with authorities not being able to communicate and weird shit beginning to happen.
Nice.
This was comprised of poltergeist manifestations, including the usual gamut of phantom babies wailing, random knocking, and unseen women screaming, as well as glowing, free-floating orbs, repetitious brownouts, interference with televisions and other electronic devices, particularly at night, and the sightings of amorphous globs of light floating over the Chief Cornstalk hunting grounds. Farmer Rolf Lee said that he'd seen so many UFOs soaring over his property, he no longer paid them any mind. More disturbing yet were the reports of loud footfalls emanating from rooftops, terrifying children and infuriating fathers who could find tracks but no other trace of the intruders. That's a fucking nightmare.
As a father, that's infuriating.
That's actually pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
That's really bad.
Bam.
Yeah.
Like one girl, I think her name was Susan Shepard. She talked about it sounded as if somebody jumped out of a helicopter, not because she heard helicopter rotors, but like somebody dropped maybe 10 feet down, bam, on the roof with like this shuddering thud. And then for about 10 or 15 minutes, she could hear it stomping around, and then it would go silent, as if it had just flown off or jumped off the roof or whatever it had done. And then her, dad would check the next day and there'd be fucking prints on the rooftop, no indication of any prints on the ground indicating that it had only one direction to go. And she said, I thought this was interesting. I saw this in I think maybe The Eyes of the Mothman. I've watched so many documentaries and things, so forgive me. I have it in my notes somewhere if someone needs it. That she always wanted to have the courage to go outside and wait in the bushes and see what it was, but never could muster it. But I mean, God bless her. Who could? I mean, it's terrifying, but just to know that's going to happen like every other night, just that boom and the walking around.
Creepy.
It's just,
super creepy. Not
the
good.
same night, getting back to the story, as the transmitter was destroyed, John Keel and Officer Harold Harmon, who on March 7th had seen the rocking UFO over the pond in the TNT area, were on a hilltop near Gallipolis Ferry, watching a group of, quote, star-like objects which flitted around the sky with rapid zigzag movements, end quote. Not far from a pair of local teens who were sitting next to a bonfire. John, grumpy old paranormal fuckbag that he was, shouted at the teens to extinguish the fire so as not to scare away the fucking UFOs.
I just love the fact that you wrote that in the fucking story. Grumpy old paranormal fuckbag.
Oh, yeah. As I was writing it, I'm like, this is exactly how I feel.
You're right. You're fucking right.
Yeah, just put the goddamn fires out.
When fire scares away bears, not UFOs.
You're gonna scare the fucking UFOs away. No Mothman will show up with those fires, you assholes. Get off my lawn. I love John Keel.
Damn kids and your fucking fires.
You sons of bitch with your poetry and your marijuana cigarettes. God damn it. That's why I love John Keel. He's my fucking favorite.
He's your personal paranormal fuckbag.
Oh, God, I love him. He's so fucking awesome. Holy shit.
So while John's shouting at kids, Harold tried vainly to tune in local chatter on his police radio. He knew that the Point Pleasant transmitter was down, but he'd not yet learned that law enforcement for miles in every direction was plagued with a baffling interference, which effectively cut off all police communications in South Ohio and West Virginia. So for miles, it's not just Point Pleasant and their fucking transmitter of fucking flame.
Yeah, everyone got fireballed, apparently.
No doubt.
Everyone got hadinkied.
It gets worse.
There you go.
This was not limited to official channels. Communities throughout the valley were complaining that their phones had stopped working altogether, or that every time they raised their receivers, they were greeted by a bizarre series of mechanical sounds. So the same old bullshit, the fucking the boops and the beeps and the what, you got fucking rocket. Boop, 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 boop. I'm not going to do the whole thing.
No.
Or you fucking just got weird voices or no phone at all.
Oh, man.
The two teens, evidently unoffended by John's loud request, agreed to accompany him into the darkness to get a better look at the UFOs while Harold continued to fiddle with the radio. The trio spied, quote, a number of vague purple shapes hovering over a woods on Ralph Lee's property, end quote. When John aimed his trusty 6-celled flashlight at the objects, they jumped around as if avoiding the brilliant beam. Suddenly, a huge swath of forest in the valley below was illuminated by a, quote, bright, eerie purple light, end quote. John wanted to get closer, but the boys with him astutely decided that would be a bad idea. So the trio just watched until the light and the purple blobs vanished.
Yeah, just imagine being them kids and like John Keel yells at you for the fire, and then he's like, "Hey, you want to come hang out?" And you're like, "Well, sure, let's go check this out." And then he's trying to get you to do shit, and you're like, "Oh, fuck you, old man!" They just fucking run.
Yeah, no, they're like, "No, how far are we going to take this? Don't hold my hand. I'm okay."
Yeah, no, peace out, Captain. Fuck off, Captain. Bad idea. We're going to fucking drink some beers. So yeah, it's just funny.
The next evening, Saturday, April 1st, 1967, John and Mary were once again on UFO watch on a crest near 5 Mile Creek Road, just below Gallipolis Ferry, totally unaware of the fact that they were on the verge of having 2 nights of the closest encounters they would ever experience.
Oh, shit.
The event began when they spied a bright red light bobbing up and down on a steep wooded hill below their perch. The duo excitedly watched the object, which they could now make out to be a red rectangle, as it slowly approached their position before disappearing behind a group of trees near a farmhouse approximately 75 feet away. When it resurfaced, it was much closer, and they could see now that the vivid scarlet square was actually a window surrounded by a massive dark object that was slowly maneuvering toward them approximately 50 feet above the ground. Weirder still, John could make out a, quote, shadowy human figure in the window. A few minutes later, John decided to proactively initiate an encounter by climbing out of his car and flashing his powerful beam at the UFO. Suddenly, the red light vanished and the unknown object instantaneously shot skyward. John and Mary were, of course, disappointed, but the evening's activities were far from over. A few hours later, the twosome noticed the moon was casting an unnatural reddish glow as it rose above the trees. In its crimson radiance, they could see a dark humanoid figure moving about on the hill. It may have been human, but it was late and neither John nor Mary had a burning desire to venture out of the vehicle. Still, as odd as these sightings were, the next night would prove to be even more eventful. On the eve of April 2nd, John and Mary found themselves parked on the same hill as the previous night, watching red flashing lights and purple globs. And purple fucking globs. Where did that come from in UFO lore?
Weird.
I mean, there's just one story that we'll probably do eventually. It's very brief, and I think it inspired the actual making of Jack Harris's The Blob, and that's this purpley blobbish thing, the purple glob I called it, that fell from the heavens, and these 2 Philadelphia cops are like, "The fuck are you?" And it's just a big pile of pulsating reflective goo that eventually dissipates. But
weird.
But that's the only time I've ever heard of something like that floating. Well, we'll save that for another day. Okay. So the red flashing lights and purple globs float in front of the static stars before them. Once again, John aimed his flashlight at the objects. He never gets sick of doing that. And as they had days before, the objects attempted to avoid the light. I will say this. There's going to be an explanation for that in next week's wrap-up episode. It's kind of fucking interesting.
Nice.
Then John used the beam to flash out a Morse code signal that read, "Descend." To their mutual surprise, the pair watched as one of the objects came toward them, utilizing the classic back and forth, quote, falling leaf motion commonly associated with the phenomenon. It didn't, however, land, and at about 12:30 a.m., Mary decided to call it a night. She left John, climbed into her own car, and made the trip home. John decided to remain at the site, and 1 hour later, he was rewarded with what he termed my best sighting, when a polychromatic orbicular object zipped past his vehicle, emitting a sizzling or hissing sound. He described the craft as having a, quote, greenish upper surface topped by a bright red light, end quote. He also noted there were dazzling red lights or portholes running around the perimeter of the object, adding, quote, the colors were so brilliant they were almost unearthly, end quote. Which is definitely some color out of space shit. We were just talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
The colors that shan't be.
Yeah, really.
Although John...
That's quite the fucking sighting. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Unearthly. Although John was accustomed to spending the night alone in areas where most people would be afraid to tread in broad daylight without any undue anxiety, he suddenly felt himself overcome by an inexplicable sense of terror, very much like what he'd experienced in the, quote, zone of fear. You guys remember that? When he kept walking back and forth in that, like, 10-meter space or whatever?
He was going to spend the night on the other side because he was all freaked out.
It was all he could do to resist the urge to speed away from the spot. The next day, John woke to find his eyes were burning. A quick glance in the mirror told him that, like so many UFO witnesses before, he was suffering from actinic conjunctivitis. The old clean conjunctivitis.
Oh, man, the old fucking UFO drip, the old UFO clap.
Oh, it is. The ultraviolet UFO clap. Oh, you got the eye clap. Saucer, did you?
See, yeah, and the old UFO gonorrhea. Get you every time.
No, I like eye clap better. UFO clap.
There it is.
Okay. It is.
It's gross.
That day, he returned to the scene of his encounter with Mary Heyer, Sheriff George Johnson, and Deputy Millard Halstead. You know, the guy that got everything reported to him in the beginning, just when he wanted to fucking watch the baseball game and fucking read a book because he's in a small town and he's there all night, and suddenly he's the nexus for all the mayhem that ever was.
Just trying to watch TV.
Deputy Millard. He was armed with a Geiger counter. Or is it Geiger counter? It's Geiger counter, isn't it?
I think it's Geiger.
I think I always said Geiger, but
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I get it's a centaur thing. I don't always get it right.
Centaur.
Though they could find no trace of evidence of the aerial vessel, one enigmatic event occurred when Millard's days dormant police radio suddenly cackled to life. The strange part was the radio was off when the static-ridden voices came streaming forth. So it doesn't work. Suddenly it works, but it's not fucking on.
Yeah.
And that's the worst.
Oh, no.
Like that moment in a horror film when your TV's off and it comes on, then you unplug it and it comes back on and you're like, well, fuck. Physics doesn't work. Fuck.
No.
Yeah, this is the end.
It's haunted, dude.
It is haunted. The haunted police radio.
Yep. Just go to bed.
God, that's what I should have called this episode. The haunted police radio.
The haunted police radio.
4 days following John's injury-inducing sighting, he was sitting with Mary in her office when her face became a mask of consternation. She suddenly looked up and told John that she'd been meaning to tell him for days that after she'd left him on the Gallipolis hilltop, she watched a huge globe of luminosity fly over the Ohio River as she made her way home. What had bothered her was not so much the object itself, but the fact that she kept forgetting about it every time John was near. This lacunar amnesia, or loss of a memory pertaining to a specific incident, is an all too common part of the UFO phenomenon and very much troubled Mary.
Oh, they make you forget.
They eat that one specific memory.
Yeah.
That eternal sunshine of the fucking alien mind, and they fucking steal it out.
Yeah.
It's shitty.
It is.
As we discussed at length in the last episode, on the evening of April 5th, 1967, one of the most astonishing outbreaks in the already paranormally prolific saga of the Mothman phenomenon occurred when hundreds of witnesses, including the Lillys, Sheriff Johnson, a pack of reporters, and scads of spectators throughout Point Pleasant, saw a bright white object fly overhead, eventually landing in the backyard of the Kelly family, much to the patriarch Bill's everlasting ire. As you recall, it fucked up his full-color TV. That was a problem.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a floor model Zenith. It was a good one. Probably like faux wood and fucking, I don't blame Bill. On April 6th, 1967, John and Mary once again found themselves on the isolated hilltop on 5 Mile Creek Road. It's their hangout now. The red UFO, which they had seen several times, appeared above a nearby uninhabited slope. Once again, John attempted to contact the aircraft via flashlight. He flickered it on 3 times, and to the duo's shock, the object emitted 3 blinding flashes in response. The frightened Mary was so impressed with the event that she signed out a sworn affidavit attesting to the veracity of the incident, which was notarized by one Howard Schultz on June 21st, 1967. Making it official.
We got some communication. There you go. You got the Notary Republic on board.
Just in case.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
The next night, Mabel McDaniel, as well as 2 unidentified women, joined John at the location. The foursome saw a repeat of the red lights, but when John left the women to go investigate, he found that he was being followed by a, quote, pale bluish ball of light, end quote, that was hovering near the treetops of an orchard behind a nearby farm. As he was disposed to do, John flashed his 6th cell. You know, he's a gunslinger. It's what he does.
That's his deal, sure.
The orb then, quote, flared with dazzling brilliance, dimmed, and vanished, end quote, as did the other red light. John made his way back to the parked cars where he found Mabel and her friends behind rolled-up windows and locked doors in an alarmed state. Evidently, the trio had watched as a tall man climbed the fence and advanced toward their car. The women presumed that it was John coming back, but as the figure crept ever closer, they saw John's flashlight burst to life in the field, and they knew that this was not him. Within mere seconds, the menacing apparition vanished, leaving the women terrified. 2 nights later, yet another woman, identified only as a Mason County teacher, was struck with horror at the sight of an uncanny hovering vehicle roughly the size of a Volkswagen Bug. You know, Herbie, the love UFO.
He's there.
He's just doing his thing.
Yeah, he's
Dick
doing
Van Dyke.
Totally.
Hanging the fuck out.
On a rainy night that April, the Mothman made one of its increasingly rare appearances when a black form with a 10-foot wingspan shot out, from the woods within the Chief Cornstalk hunting ground, flew over a car of an unnamed man who instantly hit the gas. Despite the fact that he was going over 70 miles per hour, the creature kept up with his car before the thing, as it so often did, peeled away and flew towards the Ohio River. I don't know why it keeps going back to the river. It's almost like the Heller space creature, the flipper that suddenly sprouted wings, and it was by the, like, why constantly the fucking river?
It's the water, man. They're all about the water.
USOs, UFOs,
Yeah,
it's all the same thing.
Shit.
Right, Mark?
Yeah, it's all fucking same place, man. Comes in the same dimension, same place.
Told you, Rob.
Mark Keel.
In early May, the UFO problem literally came home for Mary Hyre when her husband, Walter, Scotty to his friends, and their neighbors, saw a luminous object over their house. The spaceship startled the observers, which did not include Mary, who was working at the time, when it, quote, projected a powerful beam of light into her backyard.
Oh, shit.
Have you guys, again, that's one of my post Close Encounter nightmares. You see the UFO. I want to see it. I've always wanted to see one of those big hyper technicolor UFOs, but that beam comes down and you hear that deep bass boom, boom, and I'm just like, no. Oh, I don't know.
It's gonna kill the grass. Dude, the grass is fucked. That whole patch of grass is never cuttable ever again.
Oh, the poor worms.
Well, that's just not what I'm thinking about at that point in time.
The grass is fucked.
Fucking lawn.
The lawn's fucked.
Weirder still. Weirder still. Right before the UFO came to roost above the Hyre home, Roger Scarberry began to have reoccurring, perhaps related, perhaps not, nightmares about a large eyeball hovering over her house. So fucking weird. 3 days later, on May 8th, Mary pulled into her driveway at about 11:30 p.m. That's Mary Hyre. following a civic meeting that she was reporting on. Just as she started to open her front door, a big black car squealed to a halt in front of her house and a man jumped out. Before she could ask him what he wanted, the stranger raised a camera and procured a picture of her, using what she recalled as being an extremely bright flash gun before immediately driving off.
Fucking paparazzi, man.
This would be the first of the, quote, phantom photographers to enter the scene. The victim... What?
Just a phantom photographer now?
Photographer.
Now we got to deal with phantom
And
photographers.
that's a quote, by the way. I didn't coin that. That's straight up. That's straight up. John.
Oh, all right, perfect.
Goddamn phantom photographers! As if this wasn't fucked enough?
Yeah, no,
It's even more
it's just,
fucked.
it's like, it's not even a layer cake anymore. It's not even a lasagna. It's a fucking, I don't even know.
God damn it! It's a fucking
Help
garbage
me out.
place.
I've lost my
Paranormal.
analogy
I don't even
skills.
know.
I don't know. I feel like it's probably just photographers, but whatever.
Well, they're phantom photographers, Chris. Now this is a part of our life. Robert, please continue.
I guess it's a paranormal lasagna. That's all I can think of. But the victims of their photogenic assaults were unsure if these were men in black, more quirky fairy folk, or just U.S. agents sent to spy on them, like Chris suggested, as it was obvious that the government, for their own undisclosed reasons, were very interested in the goings-on in Mason County. Whatever their origin may have been, John was the second to encounter one when, while on a date on 42nd Street in New York City, a thin man with sharp, gaunt features took a flash photo of him and his lady friend before turning and sprinting away.
Fucking perverts. I knew it.
Okay, well, that just sounds like paparazzi.
Well, yeah, but I
perverts.
don't know how famous John Keel was then. I certainly don't know how famous Mary Hyre was at the time. I mean, I don't.
None of us do.
You're right, but I think I would be more inclined to think curiosity seekers, though I don't know why they would do that, or government agents that are trying to keep tabs, as they so often did during that era. Because you got to remember, a lot of times ufological groups and experiencers were associated with like communist cells and insurgents and weird shit. We kind of dealt with that a little bit with the lead mask mystery, where terrorism and UFOs went fucking hand in hand for some reason in that country.
The phantom commies.
I just don't know. Like, what's the point of having somebody run up, take a picture, and book?
That doesn't make any sense. I
If
agree.
you can just tail somebody and call somebody and be like, oh, yeah, we got eyes on them. They're at this fucking cafe drinking fucking local latte, whatever the fuck they're doing.
No, you're right.
You know, look, what's the point of having some asshole run up and take a picture and then book?
Well,
It makes no sense.
why have a hyper galoot and a super shy redhead fucking offer to take annual free family fucking
That's
picture?
right. Right.
what's
What the fuck?
Unless, of course, it is sort of like the little dude with the bowl cut and the fucking glasses and the big rubber shoes who fucking like flipped his fucking lid, lost his mind when he got a fucking free pen from Mary Hyre. Like stealing something, be it your fucking image or your fucking writing utensils, somehow becomes a significant either sacrificial or badge of honor, even for a culture that we can't even begin to wrap our heads around. Now, I understand that's pissing in the wind, but if there is something to it, the fairy folk and their weird agendas, if you look into the history of how they interact with us, taking things of ours, and the old idea of the soul being trapped in a photograph, that's dark as fuck, but who knows, seems to be something that really thrills them for whatever reason. So maybe it makes more sense, even though it makes no sense at all, to say fucking fairies are stealing pictures of people. But if we're going to say it, maybe it makes more sense that that's what's going on. They're just maybe snaking photos of people involved so they can build the fucking file for J. Edgar or whoever their fucking head honcho is and be like, yep, this person's seen a bunch of shit. This person's writing about it. Whenever you write about UFOs, you make people less sure about America because you think it's not the strongest in the universe. And therefore you are actively an insurrectionist. And so you become an enemy of the state. The fuck?
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, what's the point of why? Why?
What's the point of any of this? Fucking Point Pleasant is a
why
shit
him?
show.
I like that you jumped to fairies, but to me it just sounded like it was almost like an intimidation technique that they purposely pop out and do this. We're like, oh fuck, and all of a sudden,
so you want to be rational. You want to be the guy that makes fucking sense. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mark's the guy that makes fucking sense. That's just great. Mothman won.
I'm over here living my predator lifestyle while you and Chris are cavorting in fairyland. I'm just saying, quite possibly,
I'm not cavorting in fairyland.
It's just a way to
just let them have it. All right, you're right.
A way to intimidate people by who? By the fairy people or by the government?
No, the government.
The government, probably.
If you think people are randomly showing up, snapping your picture, running away, it's leaving you unbalanced and scared. Actually, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. God damn it, Mark. God damn you.
No, that's what I thought to begin with, but I was just playing into why would it be fairy people? Look, what would be the point of that for them?
Maybe I wanted it to be fairy people, Chris. Maybe that is something I needed. It's been a long time I've been working on this, man. The fuck? Just let me have the fairies.
That's why I asked the questions. That's why I let you have it. And you're like, I don't fucking know. And I'm like, well.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you're right. So maybe, again, I pulled a keel. Maybe I pulled a full keel and accused the fairies when it's just dudes.
You just got Chris Carnicelli into the corner.
Oh, I did too.
He just took it and he's like, tell me more about fairies, Rob. He locked eyes with you.
Nobody puts Bobby Keel in the corner, okay, Chris?
Oh, Chris just did.
Man.
All right.
Bobby Keel.
Fine.
I don't know if I'm a fan of Bobby Keel.
Who is? Nobody likes that fucking jackass.
Oh, shit. All right. Intimidating people.
Here it is. Here's
phantom photographers.
All right. Jumping ahead to the autumn of 1967, the same anonymous eyewitness who'd been chased by the Mothman on that rainy eve the previous April. You guys remember that dude? On Nemo, who just got chased by the Mothman, came home from work to find a stranger inside of his dark apartment. As he was fumbling for the light switch, the black-clad prowler, who looked to be just under 6 feet in height, oddly specific, he's dressed in black, it's a dark room, I'm going to let it happen, snapped a picture. The intense flashbulb burst blinded the man, and the intruder managed to push past him before he could regain his bearings. After a thorough check, the man realized that nothing was missing from his apartment, forcing him to conclude that the trespasser had been waiting for the sole purpose of taking his picture.
Creepy.
Probably not a fairy. Fine, whatever. Around the same time, a very pregnant Linda Scarberry was greeted by the third stranger to offer to take her fucking picture.
What the fuck?
Not just hers, but her family, also for free.
Oh, I love it.
Unlike the previous pair, this would-be phantom photographer was more like a typical MIB in that he was clad in a black suit and had what she recalled to be a, quote, heavy sunburn. Which is just weird because they're either pale or super swarthy, which makes me wonder, you're going to love this, Chris, if the solar irradiance on our planet or dimension is significantly stronger than the electromagnetic radiation on the visitor's home world and or dimension. Just saying, like fucking, they are always tan. Is it our super sun or are these guys just hanging out in Florida a lot? I don't know.
Nobody does. Again, I don't have the book on the fuckers. So
I used to have the book, but I do. I have all the books on all the fuckers. I just can't right now.
I just don't like the phantom photographers. I don't like them. I'm really not happy about this.
Linda, stricken with a sudden rush of inexplicable horror, refused the offer again and immediately phoned her mother, Mabel, in a panic. The next day, even though she had seen neither a bright burst of a flashbulb nor a UFO, Linda awoke with an acute case, of, anyone care to guess?
Conjunctivitis. The old UFO clap. I think did we do that in unison? Did it work?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait for playback.
I didn't say it, but
okay. All right. Well,
I know
the old.
I can do it in post.
Actinic.
The old UFO gonorrhea.
Yep.
Getting you.
Meanwhile, the now heavily pregnant Connie Jo Carpenter, you remember her? She almost got kidnapped, and by the golf course, she saw the Mothman fly right at her. Was suffering from a curious bout of blackouts that seemed unrelated to her condition and a side effect of her chilling experiences. And Doris Lilly, the woman referred to earlier, who herself received scads of strange calls, was now also receiving an assortment of nocturnal visitors, all attired in black and white checkered shirts.
Ah, son of a bitch.
The motherfucking grinning motherfuckers.
Fucking grinning men.
And that's God damn it. Like it's enough. It's enough. And then the grinning men.
I drew the line at phantom photographer. I've protested this now for the last couple of minutes. We've been talking about it. It's it. The line's been drawn. The line in the sand. Don't cross it.
I mean, this could have been a ska band, so everyone shut up.
It's true. That is fair.
Okay,
That's
true.
super fair.
Two-tone.
Hey, can we play in your fucking city?
It was.
Hey, can we play in your bedroom awkwardly at the foot of your bed without instruments?
Why they would just come to her and be like, "Can we play in your city?" I chastise myself for that one.
No, I love it. I love the fact that every ska band is really grinning men just doing their passion.
Yeah,
which is ska.
Asking a random villager if they can play in their city
because they need permission. You can't just skank without permission. You have to fucking get it.
I don't know if there's vampire lore tied to ska bands, but
I'm sure it ties together.
It is now, dude.
There's definitely a fucking
Bobby
Discord
Keel
server for
so.
that. Yeah. Oh God, there's definitely a fucking Facebook group for ska vampires. I'm sure it's probably god awful, but there you go.
That same autumn, a family of 5 was driving down Route 2 on the West Virginia side of the Ohio River, heading for a gathering in Point Pleasant, when one of the boys sitting in the back seat had one of the most perplexing sightings on record of not one, but 2 anomalous entities, which we covered in a tiny little sweet-ass pod titled The Speedy Bum and the Silver Flyer.
Oh, shit, that's right.
The anonymous eyewitness was a child at the time, and not being from the area was unaware of the hysteria-inducing Mothman sightings, and therefore did not associate the strange figures that he, his parents, and brothers encountered with this ongoing phenomenon. According to his account, while riding southbound on the highway, he caught sight of something out of the corner of his eye. It turned out to be what he referred to as a, quote, bum, running along the thin strip of woods between the road and the riverbank. The figure wore a brown flannel shirt, baggy brown pants, a brown hunting hat with ear flaps, and, most strikingly, a pair of aviator goggles with circular red lenses.
Yeah, that's a classic kryptonite right there. There it is.
Amazingly, the mangy man kept pace with the speeding car, and that's when the rest of the boy's family took note of the scruffy, preternaturally fast fellow. In the witness's own words, quote, "He kept up with us for several hundred yards until a wide bend in the road moved us apart, and I lost sight of him. About 2 seconds later, my brothers started yelling about, 'The man, he's flying. Look, that guy is flying.' The original observer disagreed with his siblings' interpretation of the situation, insisting it wasn't the same guy. This one was in a silver suit with wings. He held his arms up by his chest. I don't know how he was controlling his flight. He shot straight up out of the woods, then leveled out and headed towards the east. He had red eyes, but not like the running guy's. The flying guy's eyes were glowing very brightly. He flew behind a hill, and that's all we saw of him," end quote. This account, which was published on the Phantoms and Monsters website on May 8th, 2014, is one of the only reports from the region depicting not a quasi-humanoid bird-like flying fiend, but a human being that seemed to be utilizing technology of some sort to get aloft. Just one more psychedelic monkey dick chucked into the old Mothman works.
Ah, there
Just
it is.
another hunk of weird.
Just shitting up the works of the Mothman.
Fucking,
that's what we're doing.
I prefer to think, I know we broke it down there, so I won't dwell on it too long. I do prefer to think that the so-called speedy bum, like once he shot off into the woods, he tore off the fake beard, shed the baggy fucking clothes. The silver suit was already there. He flicked the fucking knobs on the side of his goggles to make them bright and infrared, and he shot skyward. And that it's always been a misinterpreted superheroic event and not a crypto paranormal ufological nightmare.
Yeah, just a local steampunk fucking hero.
Maybe.
Steampunk hero. Oh my god, I love it.
Probably plays in a ska band. Might be a vampire. Never know.
That spring, a farmer told John and Mary that a radiant red and white object had alighted in his cow paddock and managed to frighten the bovines so badly that they broke through an electric fence. He ran inside to get his gun, but when he returned, all that remained of the thing was a patch of scorched earth, which the farmer referred to as a fairy circle. The following day, the farmer saw a nondescript panel truck and 2 coverall-clad men of what he assumed were Japanese extraction working on a transformer attached to a tall pole. The men wore thick, rubber-soled shoes like the tiny spectacled man enamored of Mary's pen, who we discussed at length, and the farmer explained to the investigators that they were curt to the point of being impolite. On a parting note, the farmer told the 2 reporters that his brand new circuit box, which ran his automated milker, had been melted during the object's brief yet disastrous stopover. He also mentioned that although none of his cows had gone missing during the event, his beloved dog, Hercules, had vanished.
Oh, man.
John didn't have the heart to tell him about the alarming trend of exsanguinated and partially eaten canines, which had gone mostly unreported in the area. Probably a good thing.
R.I.P. Poppins. God damn it.
Yeah, no, Herc's done. He's fucking. He's a bloodless husk somewhere.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I don't hate the Poppins. I'm just trying to be frank about the situation.
No, it's okay.
Mothman eats puppies. Deal with it.
Listen, the fairy linemen, fucking, they screwed up the 3-phase and they fucking toasted the guy's electrical box. It is what it is. I mean, at this point, it is what it is.
We definitely need some fucking otherworld OSHA to come in and fucking handle some shit.
Yeah, we do. We need a fucking NYSERDA. We need some NYSAC.
I don't think there's a galactic OSHA, but
and they can work hand in hand with the fucking the occult fucking laborers union, because our guys and their guys, they need to fucking team up time to time.
You need a laborer. You always need a nice, highly paid laborer.
Just 60 miles north of Point Pleasant, a man hailing from Belpre, Ohio, whom Keel christened with the pseudonym of Ben, watched as a UFO hovered over a chemical plant above the river. Having heard that these objects sometimes responded to bright lights, Ben flashed his auto spotlight at it. Unlike John, who'd had a mixed bag of results employing this method of contact, Ben endured decidedly dire results, as his light immediately went out, and when he went to leave the expanse, he discovered that all of his car's electrical systems had burned out. But this would be just the beginning of the strangeness, and it would be as if this one family was destined to suffer a microcosm of the entire phenomenon within one short window. Like so many witnesses, Ben, despite not having reported his sighting to anyone, was initially inundated with bizarre phone calls consisting of beeps, clicks, and, quote, metallic voices. But unlike so many of the other experiencers, he would actually understand the voices, and they were advising him to attend undefined meetings. Sagely, though frustrating from a research point of view, the husband and father refused to go. So that's interesting. Not Spaniards or Germans.
Yeah.
Just like, hey,
come to a meeting?
just gotta come. We're at the VFW. We're in the basement. Second one from the left. The free coffee. There's cookies. You're going to come there. We're going to tell you about the nature of the universe. And then, we're just going to hang out. Shoot the shit. It's going to be great. Ben, come on.
I mean, he got invited to an intergalactic AA meeting, which is good.
Oh my God.
If you got a drinking problem, fucking address that shit.
No.
Don't destroy
it's
your
about
family.
The space Coke. When it's intergalactic. And you know what? It's half Pappins, half people, and they all have a problem, and they're there to support each other.
Oh, it's that damn fucking space Coke. Get you every time.
It was then that the poltergeist activity began in earnest. Drawers flew open, objects vanished, and a file cabinet too heavy for a single person to even budge was flung against the window. With their car on the fritz and their house in turmoil, Ben's wife began to notice what she described as, quote, unusual people, end quote, wandering around the neighborhood. The specifics were not given. One of these unusual people, a man in a black suit driving a black car, even went so far as to snap a series of photos of their house with a very large camera before hurrying away. They're getting everything. The poltergeist, the UFO, the fucking phantom photographers. Once, while in nearby Parkersburg, Ben felt a disconcerting wave of anxiety overcome him as a pair of black-garbed men advanced toward him. The men, who seemed to be of Asian descent, grinned eerily at Ben, who noted that they moved in an unconventional manner as if they were unaccustomed to the gravity. Common theme.
Oh, shit.
Not usually prone to bouts of nervousness, Ben, who was not in the least bit familiar with MIB lore, found himself crossing the street to avoid the men. Now, in all fairness, they could have just been some nice tourists. I mean, there's no and drunk. I don't know, man. I mean, who's to say that their gravity fucking, subjected?
Dude, with everything his family's experiencing, anything's gonna fucking toss you. You see a weird cat and you're like, fuck, and you're all, that's it.
You're absolutely right. You are.
Someone gives you coffee weird and you're gonna be all fucking freaked out. No, so I get why he did this. He did the right thing. He's like, shit, I'm getting the fuck away from these dudes. Like,
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing I know about Men in Black is they do not care for microaggressions. So he might have fucked up with that one, in all fairness.
Well, I mean, hey, sometimes you got to fucking bring the fight to the fucking MIBs. What are you going to do?
Fair enough.
There it is. Predator lifestyle, baby. Live it.
Here's how. Jesus Christ. Here's where the synchronicities start in earnest. Ben happened to be a co-worker of Park McDaniel, the father of Linda Scarberry and the husband of Mabel, as I'm sure some of us remember. It's hard. You really need a timeline with this. And confided in his friend, who, presumably with Ben's consent, informed John Keel about the strange goings-on. Ben then agreed to add to the growing body of information so long as his family's name remained a secret. It was then that John heard of a disturbing new auditory phenomenon that began to afflict those who had seen something unusual. The constant, throbbing, anxiety-inducing sounds of a beating heart. What struck him was that he was told of this telltale heart-like haunting separately by Mary Hire, the McDaniels, and the Scarberries, which of course is not to say that they couldn't have fucking talked about it beforehand and brought it to him, right. But it's just odd. On the heels of that oral nightmare came what was to be the first concrete connection between the Mothman and an ostensibly extraterrestrial vessel. The first of these two seminal sightings occurred when 16-year-old Linda Sigmund of Pomeroy, Ohio, was out for a nighttime drive with her nameless boyfriend. And this is important because they are virtually unrelated except by geography and time, right, until this shit. At about 7:30 p.m., the couple pulled off into a farmer's field under the pretense of watching the stars. And as they stared out at the vast expanse of the cosmos, Linda noticed a vivid light on the horizon to her right. The teenager could only stare in silence as the object suddenly streaked toward them, hovering about 10 feet above the parked car, flooding it with a penetrating light. That changes fucking themes quick. Like, oh, what's that? Oh, fuck the what? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you
here? Yeah, now it's here. Yeah.
It's officially in your shit, quote unquote.
As John Keel would point out repeatedly, these unearthly phenomenon seem to have a peculiar preoccupation with human mating habits. But whatever the voyeuristic intentions this device may or may not have had, the teen's reaction to it was unmistakable. Sheer terror. Linda began screaming for her boyfriend to start the car and leave, and for perhaps the very first time in paranormal history, a vehicle trapped inside a UFO's beam started immediately.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, no, that is the first time.
It really is. It's great.
100%.
Oh, it's a relief. The boyfriend threw his car into gear and kicked up a cloud of dirt as he shot back onto the road and careened around the corner. Linda scanned the skies for any sign of the UFO, and that's when she got the shock of her young life. The craft was tracking them, but pursuing it was an appalling 9-foot-tall winged humanoid. The couple managed to escape, but they could never forget. The second event was no less bizarre. So the first one is UFO above my car. We get out of there. UFO on the side of my car. Mothman following UFO.
Yeah, weird. You got the like you said,
there's
first time, man. You got the UFO and the fucking Mothman there.
it is a geographic connection. It could be the Mothman's just curious about UFOs like the rest of us are. It could have just happened to be flying this way and the aliens were doing this and they're not related. But the second one brings it home a little better. Brenda Stone and an unidentified female friend were driving down Route 62 near the TNT area when, at roughly 10:30 p.m. on May 19th, 1967, the women saw a shadowy figure with two bright red eyes perched high in a tree. Brenda slowed down to get a better look at the creature, and that's when she spied a huge, vividly red object drifting toward the same tree. Without warning, the humanoid sprouted wings and shot up into the orb, after which the UFO flew to the north. So no longer just coincidental. Now it's a fucking direct connection.
Fucking confirmed, dude. Mothman pilots a UFO.
Brenda Stone is accurately reporting the situation. We always have to add the caveats. But
right.
yeah. I mean, she might have had a diabetic fit. We don't fucking know. But I'm going to take her at her word because at this point, I need to. And that's what's happening. Okay. That same night, another group of observers watched as a, quote, flaming object briefly landed in a field adjacent to the Ohio River Junior High School in Point Pleasant. Whether or not this was the same orb seen by Brenda and her companion is unknown, but it is interesting that there's a UFO landing within hours of a Mothman going into a UFO, but I don't know if bright red orb and flaming orb are... I mean, maybe it's just a more descriptive way of saying it.
Semantics, maybe.
Yeah. Right.
Or it could be different. We just don't know.
Right.
But what is known is that after months of what looked to be concurrent, though non-interacting paranormal phenomenon, no less than 4 eyewitnesses now confirmed that there was a direct connection between the Mothman and the innumerable UFOs seen over the valley. Alas, the nature of said link remains an enigma to this day. But it is intriguing that it finally happened. Like, it's just so weird to have two. Well, I mean, you have poltergeists and all sorts of other things. That's what makes this such a seminal case. But these two might be the key to maybe not figuring it out, but
yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, there seems to be a link. But that doesn't mean the UFOs that are linked with him are the same UFOs, the other UFOs.
No, there's tons of different. There's flying silver saucers. There's glowing orbs. There's purple globs.
Right.
There's so many fucking UFOs. It really is. It's beyond close encounters. It's just it's nuts.
Exactly.
Okay, next step. In June, Mary was at home. Mary Heyer, when she was visited by 2 young men dressed in identical black clothes with matching bleached white hair, which in the mid-60s was very bizarre. For some reason, she allowed them into her home where they interrogated her at length regarding John Keel before abruptly leaving. Again, you wonder if it's the same kind of mesmer that kind of affected her when the little pen lover came into her office and she felt hypnotized until she snapped and went and got her boss, or what?
I don't know. I feel like, why would she? I mean, for investigative purposes, maybe just to experience what they were going to do. But like, then again, I don't know. I'd be scared. Like, if I was her, like, I would have thought she would have known better to be like, this is fucked.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And goodbye. Yeah.
No, I mean, she's seen enough. And let's be honest, she's in the orbit of John Keel, who is her friend and now her colleague. And this man paints a really creepy picture, regardless of whether or not it is actually representative of what's going on in the heads of these entities. You would think she would be properly freaked the fuck out.
You're right. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
But maybe she just wanted to know. Maybe she's like, "Oh, this is fucked. This is my chance to
like
figure some shit out."
Any good reporter would. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I was a shitty reporter when I was a newsman. I'd be like, if there was even a hint that fucking some shit was about to go really creepy south, I'd be like, yeah, no.
Out of here.
I'm gonna go cover the
Fuck
butter
off.
festival, touch a cow, ask Andy what he thinks about it. That's what I'm gonna fucking cover. This shit's fucked up.
Yeah. I'm going to cover Totally Safe Fest 88.
Totally
You don't pay me. You don't pay me enough for fucking Danger Con.
Yeah, I will never go to
that.
Danger Con. No.
Yeah, if you pay me. Fucking pay me.
Oh, God.
No one's even mad 88. Everything's 88.
Everything's 88. 88 was a great year for fucking cons and festivals. Let's be honest.
That's what I mean.
It was the first year I went to a Fango convention. It was a great year.
That's what I'm saying.
I was 8 years old and loved it.
You were. At this point, things died down for a bit, almost like the eerie silence that comes within the eye of a hurricane. But all of that would change on November 2nd when the Birdman reemerged from its seemingly self-imposed sabbatical. Virginia Thomas, the sister of Raymond Walmsley and Marcella Bennett, both of whom had one of the most chilling Mothman encounters on the books outside of her TNT area home almost a year earlier. You'll recall it was Marcella holding her baby Tina, who fucking lost the use of her legs, collapsed.
Oh, she fell on the baby.
Fell on the baby. Yeah.
Fell on the baby.
Stop falling on
Crushing
your baby.
the baby. Yeah.
So that's who these people are. All right. So Virginia Thomas was working in her kitchen when she was startled by a harsh squeaking sound akin to a broken fan belt, only much louder. The housewife went outside to see what was causing the racket when she noticed a, quote, huge shadow spreading across the grass. And you'll remember, too, that that's what Marcella first saw before she encountered the Mothman. A
wings,
creeping, unnatural shadow. Yeah, it could be just something rising up and therefore the shadow goes. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is she takes the time to point out that the sun was nowhere near high enough in the sky to create a shadow like this. So it might be an oozing, intangible evil instead of a sun-related
probably
thing. Who knows? Virginia looked up and saw a big brown figure moving swiftly across the field before vanishing into a nearby thicket. As the thing darted by, she also noted that, quote, it didn't seem to be walking exactly. It was almost gliding. Faster than any man could run. It really scared me, end quote. Following the incident, Virginia was haunted by reoccurring nightmares and even waking visions in which large groups of violent, deeply tanned people were rioting near the huge Marietta manufacturing company in Point Pleasant. She also described them to John, saying, I have seen a lot of strange people around the river. It's like some kind of invasion or something. They came over the bridge in trucks and they poured into the TNT area. We grabbed the kids and run. I can't figure out what it means. That's just weird.
Weird. Yeah, that's fucking
riots, invasions, Men in Black, fairy folk, whatever the fuck they are. It's just weird.
Yeah, weird.
Others began experiencing similarly unsettling nocturnal visions. Mary Heyer described to John an awful dream she'd had, stating, quote, there were a lot of people drowning in the river, and Christmas packages were floating everywhere in the water. There were so many people, end quote.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I know. We all feel it's the way.
We all know where this is going.
Listen, we have fun with this stuff, but this is real. In Strange Creatures from Time and Space, John Keel described how approximately half of the Mothman and UFO witnesses had displayed some form of extrasensory perception, comprising of improbably accurate premonitions, prophetic dreams, or, in the case of Linda Scarberry, the uncanny ability to perceive the feelings of the red-eyed inhuman entity known as the Mothman. We all remember that interlude.
Oh, yeah. He was lonely. West Virginia.
It seemed he was lonely, West Virginia.
He was lonely.
West Virginia. Bring me down now. Find the love in a place I don't call home. Yeah, bring me back. West Virginia. Come on, guys.
Dude, I'm
just waiting for you,
magic.
Man. I'm like, no, do take it. Do it.
You've owned this. This is your album now.
West Virginia. All right, I was going to do a Danzig, but I won't continue.
For once.
Okay.
It seemed as if this trend were spreading beyond the witnesses and even infecting those who had remained skeptical of the whole affair, as numerous people began confiding in their friends and families that they were suffering from a deep sense of dread that they couldn't quite place. So initially, these psychic flashes, whatever they may be, are limited to people that had a contact moment or a sighting. And John Keel notes in a couple of the things I've read of his that this seems to be seeping out into just the grand psyche, the collective psyche of the community, and not just limited to people that had seen preternatural shit. Mary Hyre made a note of this, saying, quote, "Everybody feels the same way. You can't really put your finger on it, but it's like something awful is about to happen." John also wrote that there was a, quote, "heavy atmosphere of foreboding in Point Pleasant." Finally, at 4:58 p.m. on December 15th, 1967, 13 months to the day from the Scarberry and Millette sightings that kicked off the Mothman media frenzy, the unthinkable happened. An event more horrific than all of the Birdman, UFO, and MIB encounters wrapped together. A tragedy that has come to define the Mothman phenomenon even more perhaps than the vile creature itself. It was just 10 days before Christmas, and the streets were jammed with holiday shoppers, good cheer, and an apparently never-ending flow of traffic over the Silver Bridge. For one brief, all too fleeting moment, the Christmas spirit had usurped the paganistic paranoia that had cast its long shadow over the region, and all was right with the world. It would be too good to last. With a thunderous crack that echoed along both sides of the Ohio River, a single indispensable eye-bar exploded on the Ohio side of the Silver Bridge, setting into motion a chain reaction that would nearly instantaneously shatter hundreds of lives. Those who witnessed the horrific event would recall the suspension bridge swaying violently from side to side before, with the grim shriek of metal grinding metal, this miracle of American engineering fell into the icy waters. In less than a minute, this enduring edifice, which had stood tall and proud since 1928, collapsed, plunging 75 vehicles holding 64 people into the churning black abyss below. Those unlucky enough to observe the tragic event recalled staring in horror as electrical cables snapped, sending showers of sparks down onto the cars and trucks right before they hit the water, followed by the heavy, twisted wreckage of the bridge dropping on top of them, eliminating, for most, any chance of survival. Others would remember the eerie glow of the headlights slowly fading from view as the vehicle sank deeper and deeper into the dark water, their brightness dissipating as swiftly as the lives within. Still others would bleakly recollect the wrapped gifts bobbing up and down on the surface of the river, exactly as Mary had dreamt it. Rescuers jumped into boats and came to the aid of the scarce survivors as swiftly as possible, but the silhouetted forms were slipping beneath the freezing waves so rapidly that just 20 souls would stay alive long enough to be saved, even if they'd somehow managed to survive the fall. With this single, seemingly insignificant malfunction, 46 human beings, parents, children, classmates, co-workers, friends, and fiancés lost their lives, and life in the valley would never be the same again. And though the catastrophic collapse was over in a matter of moments, the suffering of those left behind would last an eternity and leave a dark mark as one of the most deadly bridge falls in U.S. history. Holiday joy had, for a split second, stolen the big bird's thunder, but the soul-crushing sorrow that followed in the wake of this unforeseen calamity would all but banish the once omnipresent beast from the minds of the locals. If indeed the creature had gained any tulpa-like energy from all of the focus that had been foisted upon it during the last 13 months, then it was all stolen in one fell swoop of a faulty eye-bar. Number 330 to be exact. Perhaps this explained why the creature was so rarely seen in the months following the dreadful event. Or more likely than not, maybe folks awash in the kind of emotional and psychological turmoil that embroiled the region no longer had the desire or wherewithal to entertain notions of esoteric visitors from other worlds, especially in such a small community where no one was untouched by the tragedy. The 13-month year of the Garuda, as John Keel dubbed it, officially came to an end that terrible afternoon, at least according to the man himself. But John was a complex individual who'd at various intervals labeled himself a parapsychologist, a demonologist, a ufologist, and a journalist. But he was both a scholar and a storyteller, and every bit as much a raconteur as a researcher. Nevertheless, the oft-repeated legend that the whole of the Mothman phenomenon, with all of its mystifyingly metaphysical moving parts, simply came to an end with the collapse of the Silver Bridge is just that, a legend. In reality, there would be a denouement that some say endures to this day. The first paranormal post-Silver Bridge event occurred on December 15th, the very same night that the structure collapsed. The Lilly family reported seeing a vivid armada of skyships above the TNT area. The UFO activity had slowed down since the commotion that had consumed Camp Conley Road back on April 5th, but that night they were out with a vengeance. Jackie and her two children, Johnny and Linda, who'd had her own harrowing encounter with a grinning man, watched in dismay as at least 12 brightly lit objects accumulated over their home before heading toward town. The attention of everyone in the ranch house was split between the terrible news on the TV and the floating flotilla that was hovering overhead. Jackie desperately tried to get a hold of someone, anyone, to take her and her kids away from the strange lights, but her phone was dead. She told John later, "I was getting scared. We'd never seen so many of these things in one night. I kept trying the phone, wanting to get somebody to drive out and pick us up and take us out of there," end quote. Finally, at 9 p.m., the phone came back into service and they were rescued. But this proved to be too much. After nearly a year of terrifying grinning men, poltergeists, phantom babies, and fleets of flying saucers, the Lilly clan pulled up stakes and left Camp Conley Road for good. The next day, December 16th, long before anyone claimed to have seen the Mothman perched on the bridge before its collapse, Mary reported to John that an eyewitness claimed to have spied two men who were not walking, but climbing like spiders across the struts of the Silver Bridge the day before the tragedy. What could have been of no significance to the woman reporting the sighting, but of grave importance to John and Mary, was the fact that these men were wearing black and white checkered shirts.
Oh, shit.
It was almost as if war had been declared on the human race by beings of unknown origin, and after many months of short-lived supernatural skirmishes, the first battle had finally begun. These trans-dimensional terrorists had fired the first volley, and there were casualties. The metaphysical maelstrom, which had for over a year consumed West Virginia and Ohio, had reached perilous proportions, forging a strained nexus between the area's long-suffering human inhabitants and the perfidious paraphysical beings that had chosen to invade their home turf. This War of the Worlds created an almost unbearable tension between the ordinary domain of rural America and the unfathomable etheric realm, generating a strain that threatened to tear apart the fragile fabric of reality itself and leave in its unspeakable wake a deep furrow of emotional, physical, and psychological scars, even worse than those already inflicted. But we'll save that for the final chapter in the saga.
Oh, shit. There it is. The collapse of the Silver Bridge. How fucking terrifying.
The worst.
You're on a bridge, fucking I-beam, whatever, 330 fucking decides to fail, and all of a sudden, fucking everything changes that day. Holy shit.
You know, to hear, like,
it's terrifying.
The proprietor of the Mothman Museum and the co-founder of the festival, Jeff Wamsley, you know, he was like 5, I think, when it happened, or something thereabouts. Like, it's a foundational shift. Like, people are still affected to this day. And how could you not be? Because everybody knew somebody. Like when I was listing everyone, fiancés, classmates, everything, you knew somebody. It was an uncle, or just a friend, or the guy who lived down the street. If you were lucky, somebody you barely knew, but you still knew somebody. And it was not just Point Pleasant. It was all the communities on both sides of the Ohio River in that area. And it was Christmas. It was like fucking 10 days before Christmas. And there's gifts bobbing in the water. And you keep trying to save people. And you're like, and you read these accounts of these people on the boats, and they're like, there's someone, he's swimming, he's half hanging out of his truck, and he's going to be okay. Then suddenly the truck plunges under. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know if he got away. I mean, the emotional and psychological scars, just talking about it is making me fucking tear up a little. I can't imagine what it must have been like to live on either the victim side or the people standing there, or the people that were actually on the river trying their damnedest to save lives. It is, it's something that's a shock to the system. And as I mentioned just a second ago, there's a reason why, it was John Keel that conveniently bookended it, 13 months, because it's such a gloriously ominous number.
Of course.
And it starts with the Millettes and Scarberry seeing the Mothman, and ends with Silver Bridge, and all that's good. Well, and hell, even I bought into it when I was rereading the Speedy Bum and the Silver Flyer. Even I said something like, during the 13-month fucking hella flap, weird shit happened, and here's one of them. But the fact is, it's not accurate. It's a fun way to bookend it, but it's not really it. But the truth of it is that it's, even though it didn't end on December 15th, 1967, people gave no fucks at that point. You just, it's fun and scary and weird and disturbing. And now it's like, fuck you. I have real things to think about right now.
With a tragedy like that, I mean, no one's even probably thinking about UFOs or fucking weird fucking Mothman. There's literally a bunch of people just died from a bridge collapse. So yeah, no one even cares anymore. Oh man, it's fucking terrifying. I don't like bridges. I'm going to come out and say it. It's nothing against bridges or bridge makers. I just don't like bridges. And I don't like driving over them.
No,
I don't like it.
It's bad.
Like going over the big suspension bridge on over the Thousand Islands is a disturbing experience because you're so fucking high up. Worse yet, though, I think, are those bridges down in Florida and Louisiana where they're literally 7.5 inches above the ocean that will murder you. And you're just like, I mean, I get it. I'd rather cross a bridge than travel 1,000 miles around something. But they're eerie.
There's that one in Louisiana. I don't know. It's like Charles, maybe,
or Pontchartrain,
I was
maybe.
On.
I don't even remember.
Pontchartrain, more. It's like miles long, and I'm like, I can't.
No, you can't see the horizon. I think they used it in Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, because the girl with the white blind girl that was like the prophet dealing with like the 7 corridors to hell or whatever. Classic surrealistic horror. Maybe not his finest work, as some people say, but it's still worth seeing if anyone likes nightmarish, European influenced horror and with a Lovecraftian spin. That's it. But yes, I think they shot scenes on that bridge to get to the point. But bridges
that was not overtly high, but like I love going to Canada as much as I can, but there's a couple bridges on the way.
The Rainbow Bridge in Buffalo.
They're fucking brutal. They're
dude,
just
as soon as you get onto it, you're like,
and you feel the sway in the tiniest breeze.
Yeah. I don't like it.
Going to Toronto, there's a couple bridges you have to go. And they're all terrifying and horrible.
Yeah, we are not a podcast that is a fan of bridges.
Yeah.
Or water, or God forbid the idea of falling into the water with your vehicle and trying to get out of it. I just fucking hate it.
I don't like walking in the water.
Have you guys ever like planned it out? Like when I was a kid, I used to all right, you unroll it, you equalize the pressure, you let it fill in, you don't freak out, because once it's filled in, you can open the door or get out. You can't fuck around.
Yeah, but dude,
as a kid, I used to go through it over and over again as if it was destined to happen. Thank God, so far not.
I feel you there, but the impact of your vehicle hitting the water from that high up, I mean, fuck.
One dude who survived didn't realize until later he had broken his back in 3 places. I
could imagine. Jesus.
And he got out and fucking another dude fucking got out just barely, but not his wife and kid. And then what do you want to do?
No.
You want to drown.
God, that's
because how the fuck are you going to live after that?
Yeah.
Effectively.
No, God, awful. Fuck. Well, shit.
We had to end it on this note. Everyone knew this was coming. Even people that don't know the legend.
Yeah, I know. Fuck.
I know. Fuck. We knew it was going to happen. The part 5, The Fall, it was not the fucking emo band for the Mothman.
No.
It wasn't his fucking weird Jared Leto phase.
No, I know his ska band.
No, his ska band at least would
the
be
checkered
uplifting.
shirts, man. They usually save the day.
It'd be at least uplifting, but unfortunately, this is not a. We all knew there was not going to be a good end, and it clearly is not a good end. It's fucking god awful.
But we're not ending it on this note, and this is a positive thing because there is both the literal denouement. I know you love that word, Mark, so I've used it multiple times for you.
The hubris.
The hubris and the denouement. So there is like part of the post legacy, not all of it, because honestly, there's some of it that I'm not even sure necessarily relates to the Mothman. Just some weird shit that will eventually get their own pods. I don't know when, because I'm not going back to Point Pleasant in my fucking mind palace for a
I don't blame you.
long time. But
not blame you.
We're gonna cover a little bit of that, and then we're gonna cover some of the some of the theories people have about both mainstream and scientific and just off the wall. And we're going to deal with a few other characters that are almost never mentioned. Like there are great resources all over online and in writing where you can have access to John Keel's extensive and prolific notes. And thank God, unlike me, he is much more organized. And there are facets that until I did the super deep dive, had never encountered. So we're going to save that for next week because there's some really crazy big spectrum shit that is going on allegedly behind the scenes that just fucking blew my tits off, to be honest. So
yeah,
awesome.
That's next week.
All right. Well, there it is. Prepare to get your tits blown off. Christ. Thank you for joining us. The Mothman Part 5, The Fall. Come back next week for Part 6. Hellerspace.com. Get yourself some merch. Buy yourself something fancy. 2021, we're going to have some new merch coming out at some point. Keep an eye out for that. The Instas and the Twitters and the Facebooks. We're there. We're doing it. We're hanging out. I mean, it's a thing. DM me. Say what's up. I'll say what's up. We'll fucking talk. We'll chat. It's dope. The Patreon. Patreon.com/Kryptonite Podcast. $1 is a shout out. $5 is a shout out and bonus audio, and you get access to the Discord. So be sure to check that out. Shit, I was going to end on something. I forgot what it was. Oh, shit. That's right. So this episode is coming out in obviously January 2021. And we are at our 2-year anniversary. We launched in 2018 in January 5th.
Oh, shit. I did not even know. I guess I knew it was in January, but I forgot specifically when. Well, congrats, guys. This has been
congratulations,
fun.
Guys.
I mean, it's great that we've been friends for, I don't know, decades before and hopefully forever after. Amen. But what a fucking fun 2 years this has been. And thank you to the listeners. I mean,
thank
not
you
to prematurely
all for your support.
Jump on the 2-year anniversary, but you've really made this one of the most extraordinary and fucking epic and delightful interludes of my professional and personal life. So thank you.
Thank you so very much for your continued support. All of our listeners out there, we appreciate it so very much. Also, too, don't forget, we got the Facebook fan group. Be sure to check that out. Thank you to everybody over there that's keeping track of that for us. We appreciate that so very much. And
the Discord, throw it out there. You want it.
The Discord, we're there. Got the Discord. We got the Facebook fan group. We got all this stuff. We got the 2-year anniversary. Holy shit, the Mothman.
2-year anniversary.
Goddamn.
It's happening. As we did this in a previous pod. I'm just going to throw it out there now because I don't think that pod made it. It might have been the Patreon. Okay, but we're gonna try to get you more content on the Patreon.
Yes, in 2021, that is our goal, to get more content on the Patreon.
Right, at least another pod, maybe even 2. We'll see how fucking fired up we are.
Yeah,
and the video stuff is coming. We've been promising it for a fucking year, maybe more.
I know,
but like I said, COVID was it threw everything out of fucking whack. So. It is. Hopefully by spring we'll get that video. We'll get the videos up, and it's going to be a new tier, and we're going to have some stuff coming. Hopefully by spring.
Yeah. And, no, I mean, you know, like Chris said, we had the extra content coming. We're fucking super stoked about that. But again, unfortunately, this is my second fucking quarantine. I mean, I don't know how many close calls Rob and Chris have had. I know how many they've had, more than I have. So yeah, unfortunately, just everything fucking totally totally fucked us, and not in the cool way.
Yes.
Like in
the
the real
non-boss
shitty way.
variety.
Yeah,
Yep.
it
Sad
sucked.
banging.
Yep.
Sad,
Saddest
yeah,
bang.
It was
Yep.
a sad banging. So yeah,
unlubed
yeah,
anal.
but again, thank you all for your
Jesus
support. We
Christ.
appreciate.
It's the worst. That's the saddest banging.
I mean, it is. It honestly, it is.
all right.
I've heard that on Reddit. Yes, it is. So thank you all though for your continued support. We appreciate
And
it.
I just want to add,
And,
to the glorious, beatific, extraordinary Mothman. When I said I hate your guts, it really, it's me, not you. I just want to emphasize that. I want to say that publicly. It wasn't about you.
All right,
I really did for a split second. I didn't even think I was going to say it. I just said out loud to myself and the Mothman, apparently, it's not you, it's me. And then a second later, I thought to myself, did you fucking for real just do that in real life, you fucking idiot? I had to admit it to all my peeps, because it is a mark of shame that to fucking
I know
this
we all do it.
semi-fictional, maybe real. Who the fuck? No, real. I'm just going to go with it. I'm not going to take any chances.
All right, do it. Yeah,
I mean, because
there you
so
go. Just
far,
accept its existence.
and the ever-going saga of my fucking my mom seeing shadow moths. So far, she's been fucking moth-free in 23 or 21 almost. And so I'm trying to keep it legit for her, for me, for all of us.
I hear you.
Right.
But yeah,
All
so
right, there it
it's
is.
kind of like a Papa Bawa. You got to be real careful what you say to that motherfucker.
Wear the right color shirt.
And make sure you vote properly. Yes, there it is. Thank you all so very much for joining us, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Bye.
Yeah, that was the sound of Chris dying.
Yeah, no. It was a lot. This was a lot.
It was
a lot.
No, we really, it's epic.
If you're still here, God fucking bless your fucking soul.
This is the climax.
At the 2-year anniversary of our pod, we put out the longest episode we've ever done, which is actually kind of apropos. So
we had to do it. I couldn't do 11 fucking Mothman anymore.
No, we can't. We're gonna end it at 6.
more.
Join us next week. Next week, part 6, and we're talking to you soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, friends.
Bye.